Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto uses Hiten Mitsurugi in the Chunin exams. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by RagnellAlondite and link in the description and support writer. Let's start the video. The scroll. The dark. That was the boy's element as he jumped through the trees of the forest. The boy carried a large scroll and normally his bright orange jumpsuit would give him away in a crowd, but somehow he managed to stay hidden. The boy was none other than Naruto Uzumaki, and the scroll he was carrying was the forbidden scroll that had once belonged to the fourth Hokage. Landing in the clearing, he opened the scroll and looked at the first jutsu. Ugh, Kage Bushin, I can't even do a regular Bushin. He grumbled as he passed it, deciding to come back to it later. Continuing on, he read over a few more. Shuriken Kage Bushin, Mizu Bushin, Tsuchi Bushin, Kase Bushin. What is with all the goddamn Bushin? The hyperactive blonde yelled. Moving to the end of the scroll, he found a jutsu that wasn't a Bushin, but it was also blurred. Well, it's better than nothing, and if I can learn it then I can finally get to be a shinobi. He grinned as he started memorizing the hand signs, then practicing them without channeling chakra. Once he was satisfied he had learned it, he went back and groaned, looking at the Bushin jutsu. Well, maybe I'll get extra credit if I learn more. He sighed as he started practicing the Kage Bushin. It was several hours later that he finished practicing, having learned a few more techniques out of the scroll, that Iruka showed up. Naruto. What are you doing? He shouted. Passing the makeup test. The blonde asked confused. Mizuki-sensei told me that if I could steal the forbidden scroll and learn one jutsu out of it, that I would be allowed to become a genin. Iruka sighed at this, knowing that Naruto hadn't done this to be mean. Listen Naruto, Mizuki lied to you. That I did. The Chunin laughed from the branch he was standing on. Why? Naruto asked, confused and hurt that the sensei that he trusted had lied to him. Because I wanted the scroll. And as a reward for you doing such a good job, how about I tell you a secret? Mizuki, don't. It's forbidden. Iruka shouted. What do you mean? Naruto asked. It's a secret relating to you. The reason that the village hates you. You see, on the day you were born the Kyuubi attacked, so when the fourth killed it, he locked it away inside a newborn baby. That baby was you. You're the Kyuubi. Mizuki laughed as the blonde stood there shocked. It can't be. He mentally screamed. You're right on that part. A rough voice growled. Boo. The Kyuubi. Trust me kid, you aren't me. You are just the jailer, the warden. Then I'm not a monster. Kid, if you're a monster then the Nibi is a prude, the Ichibi isn't obsessed with killing, and I'm just a big cuddly plushie. The fox growled. Then, go ahead and kick that betrayer's ass. We demon lords value honor above everything else, so use that new technique of yours and kick some major ass. Nodding, Naruto looked up at Mizuki who was laughing. You're wrong. He grinned. I'm not the Kyuubi, I'm simply the one keeping it from killing everyone. What? Mizuki shouted. And now let me show you what I learned from the scroll. Naruto grinned as he started the 50 hand signs. Once finished, everyone stopped for a moment, expecting a massive attack or something, but instead nothing happened for a few moments. Oh, this is rich. Mizuki laughed. You are a failure. Before anything else could be said, static shone through the air behind Naruto. Suddenly a massive portal opened up and he was pulled inside before either of the two Chunin knew what happened. Blood-stained. Naruto had no idea what was going on as he flew through a silver portal. He looked around, seeing glimpses of people and places that looked unfamiliar. As he traveled he noted that he felt odd, not bad but unusual, as though some sort of weight was being taken off of him. Hey Kyuubi. What kid? Is there something different about me now? Now that you mention it, Kyuubi trailed off as red chakra started wrapping around the boy. I found something interesting. It appears that you have seals on you. I'm counting at least 5 of them, though there may be more. What are they? The first one is a mental capacity inhibitor on your forehead. It's designed to lower your mental abilities. There are 2 chakra suppressing seals, one around my seal and another one on the back of your neck. The next one is a kill seal, should you ever go rouge I assume, and it's right over your heart, so it would be an instant death. The last one I can find is another suppressant seal on your back, though this one is on your physical growth. Probably why you are so short. What the hell? When did these damn things get placed and by who? No clue by who, but when would be when you were a baby. It would be the easiest time to do it and would go unnoticed. I didn't even notice until you mentioned something. Can you get rid of them? Sure. Now that I know where they are and how they are there, I can use my Yaki to burn them right off of you, though this is going to hurt like all hell. Don't care. Get those damn things off of me. Kyuubi didn't say a word as he used his Yaki to destroy any seal on Naruto that didn't relate to his sealing on himself. Once finished they started slowing down and it seemed they were arriving at their first stop. The blonde fell to the ground on a stone street near some men who looked shocked at the blonde who fell from nowhere. Who the hell is this? One asked. Doesn't matter. He's probably one of those revolutionaries. Another man growled as he started to draw his katana. Wait. Naruto exclaimed as he back up. Before any of the three could do anything, they were killed with a single swing of a katana. Looking over, Naruto saw a man who wasn't that much older than he was, with red hair, piercing eyes and two katanas. He wore white hakama and a blue kimono. Who might you be? He asked. You are no friend of the Shinsengumi, that much is certain. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. And I actually have no idea what is going on. Lost are you? Kind of. I'm not from around here. Well, you cannot stay here, not with 3 dead men here. Come with me and we can sort you out then. The man nodded as he led him away, moving so quickly that it took all of Naruto's speed to keep up. Once they arrived at a large building, the man led him into a decent-sized room and told him to take a seat. Once seated, the man looked at him. So where are you from? He asked. Konoha. Konoha. I have never heard of such a place. Do you know where you are right now? No. You are in the city of Kyoto. Never heard Iruka-sensei mention a place like that. Iruka? He is your teacher? Yeah. He was teaching me and a lot of others so that we could become shinobi. You are a shinobi then? Not yet. I failed the exam, and then another one of my senseis told me that there was a supplemental test that I could take, but he lied, and when I tried to use the jutsu that he taught me, it sent me here. I have never heard such a thing before. So who are you anyway? Oh, excuse me. I am Himura Kenshin, a revolutionary Hitakiri. Hitakiri? An assassin. It is my job to kill people so that a new era might be brought in to save the people suffering from a harsh rule. He smiled. Wow. Is there any chance you could teach me how to kill ninjutsu? Naruto grinned. Well, I suppose. I am not finished training myself. I left my master before I could finish, and I do not think I should be teaching one so young the way of killing people. Please, Naruto begged. I want to be strong. Why do you seek strength? Kenshin asked after a few moments. To protect those that are precious to me. The blonde grinned. Kenshin nodded at hearing this. Very well. I shall teach you the secret art of Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu. Kenshin grinned as he stood up. The next day, Kenshin took Naruto out of the city and deep into the woods, where he handed the young blonde a practice sword and faced him, his own at the ready. First, we have to teach you the basics of Kenjutsu. After that, we will begin teaching you all the techniques. Kenshin explained. Naruto nodded his understanding as Kenshin explained each of the 9 basic strikes and the means of blocking them. To Naruto this was fairly easy enough, but it was when Kenshin began sparring against him to show him the way Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu used speed and the least amount of movement to strike the opponent. For 2 weeks Naruto learned the basics, and once Kenshin deemed him at a satisfactory level, he began teaching him the techniques. It was during this time that Naruto changed his wardrobe, wearing black hakama and an orange kimono with the kanji of fox on the back. Kenshin had also gotten him his own katana and had Naruto train with it when practicing the forms of the techniques, so he would be used to the weight of the blade in combat. You must be faster. Kenshin advised as Naruto trained. I'm trying, Kenshin-sensei. Naruto panted as he moved to dodge an oath swing from the practice sword. You're moving too much. Remember, it is the least amount of movement that matters. Kenshin reminded Naruto. By the end of the 7th month, Naruto was at a satisfactory level to Kenshin, and he allowed the boy to aid him in various assassinations that he would perform, letting the boy keep watch and deal with any extra problems that might arise. This was how Naruto got his first taste of blood. The blonde was watching Kenshin's back while his sensei finished off their target when a group of 3 of the Shogun samurai turned down the street and saw Kenshin finish off the target. The 3 drew their katanas and Naruto reacted quickly, crossing the distance between them and delivering a fatal strike to 2 of them, letting them drop to the ground while the 3rd blinked in shock at what had happened. Turning to see where Naruto was, he was able to just see the blonde's blade flash through his throat and he knew that he was dead. Naruto, we must leave. Kenshin advised as Naruto stared at the dead bodies. Right, Naruto nodded as they soon ran off. Once they were back with the other revolutionaries, Kenshin took Naruto aside and sat with him while the young shinobi came to terms with the fact that he had killed. Does it ever get any easier? Naruto asked as he looked at Kenshin. No. Taking a life should never become easy. That is how a monster is made. I live so that many others will live, but I take no joy in the fact, and neither should you. Kenshin replied, do what you must for others and repent for the misdeeds that you have committed. That is all you can do. Naruto nodded at this advice and took Kenshin's words to heart, making a silent vow that he would only kill when there was no other option and never take any joy in the matter. Having tasted blood and gone through combat, Kenshin started to increase Naruto's training, and by the time the 13th month arrived, Kenshin told Naruto that he had taught him all that he knew. You have done well, Naruto. You have learned all that I know, and if you wish to ever master this sword you will need to seek out my master. Kenshin explained. Naruto shook his head however before speaking. I'm sorry, Kenshin-sensei, but it's time for me to go. I've lingered here for far too long. I see. Then may you have safe travels, Naruto, and I hope that we will meet again in the safer world I hope to help forge. Kenshin nodded as he turned to leave. Naruto walked off into the woods outside of Kyoto and soon finished the jutsu, using chakra again for the first time since he arrived. Once the portal was open, the blonde stepped in, leaving behind feudal Japan and heading for his next destination. Paku. Naruto was again floating through the silver passageway, this time taking in more of the pictures of places and people along the way. Hey kid. Yes. You think we are heading home? Not yet. I don't think we will be heading back to our land until we finish whatever we are supposed to. And that would be? If I knew I would have said it. Damn human. Stupid fox. The argument was cut short as they stopped and fell onto the ground, somewhere near a massive tree. Okay, now where am I? He muttered to himself as he stood up. Looking around, he noticed that it was a massive dojo nearby and that there were large walls around it. Who do we have here? A voice behind him asked. Turning slowly, he saw a massive older man with blonde hair and full beard and mustache and a ripped body from what could be told under his dark gray robe. Hello. Naruto said, looking at the giant. Who might you be? My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and you are? Naruto asked. I am Haro Furinji, but you can call me Elder. He smiled. So what brings you to my dojo? Looking to become stronger, little swordsman. Well, yes, I would like to be stronger, but I already have a teacher in the art of Kenjutsu. Naruto nodded. But if you could teach me or someone else, I would be very honored. Well, why don't you come inside and we will discuss what we can do. You. Elder smiled as he led Naruto inside. Once seated, he noted that there was a person trying to hide his presence while watching him. You can come out now. He sighed as he looked at the man. The man was as tall as the elder was, with his hair standing straight up and his own huge muscles. He was wearing a red shorts, a yellow tank top, and had bandages wrapped around his feet and shins, as well as his fists and forearms. You are going to be Apache's second disciple? He asked, looking at Naruto with hope in his eyes. I might. I'm looking to learn martial arts, so if you want to teach me, then I am willing to learn once I am done speaking with the elder. Naruto grinned as Apache cheered. I see you have met Apache Hapachai, our Muay Thai master. The elder said as he returned. So where are you from, Naruto? My hometown is called Kanahagakure in Hai no Kuni. Naruto said. I have never heard of such a place. The elder said with a serious look. Now are you simply playing games or are you telling the truth? I make a habit to tell the truth to people who might be training me. Naruto grinned. So you are a traveler from a far distant land? He smiled with a wink. You could say that. He replied, returning the wink. Alright then. Since you are a traveler and do not likely have any money to pay for our services, the deal will be this. If you help around the dojo and maybe train our first disciple, Kenichi Shirahama, then we will consider your debt cleared. Sounds fair. Naruto nodded as he stood up. So where will I be staying? We will find you a room. The elder nodded as the doors opened and two people stood there. The first was a girl, and in Naruto's opinion was very beautiful, with long blonde hair and a jumpsuit that hugged her well-endowed body. Behind her was a young boy with brown hair, wearing a school uniform with a yin-yang pin on the left collar. Just in time. Kenichi, I'd like you to meet Naruto Uzumaki. He will be staying here and training with us as well. The elder grinned as Mew greeted him while Kenichi was looking at him and at the sword at his waist. So where are you from, Naruto? Mew asked. A long ways away. I arrived here by accident and the elder agreed to let me train. Naruto grinned. So you're Kenichi. It seems I might be teaching you at times. Oh really? He sighed, knowing that he was in for hell. Don't worry. I'm sure I won't kill you. He grinned. Well, let's introduce you to everyone else. Kenichi, why don't you go warm up before we have the others start your training? The elder grinned. With that, he led the blonde out of the room to meet the other masters. First was Akasum Kitsuji, the jujitsu teacher. He was a seemingly nice man who had many artistic talents and from what Naruto could gauge stronger than he looked. Next was Shio Sakaki, the karate master. He was a massively built man that seemed to have a drinking problem and didn't seem to want to teach Naruto at all. After that was Ma Kensei, the Chinese Kenpo master. He was a short man who didn't look all that tough and was a super pervert. After that was the one teacher that Naruto got along with the best, Shigeru Kasaka, the weapons master. The two started talking right away, with her examining him at first and then his basic katana. Well, Shigeru-chan, care for a practice spar? Naruto asked with a grin. I suppose. Shigeru nodded, grabbing her katana. Once the two were outside, the other masters came out to watch the blonde fight against the weapon mistress. The two started quickly, with Naruto trying to get the upper hand using his god speed, but Shigeru, while not as fast, was equally strong and able to follow his movements with ease. After blocking several of his initial attacks, she started counter-attacking, forcing him to rely on dodging more than anything else. Soon Naruto had several cuts along his kimono and was exhausted. Geez, you are way too good, Shigeru-chan. Naruto panted. Thanks. She nodded, her eyes never leaving the blonde. I should at least try one of my master's techniques. Naruto grinned, taking a different stance, where the sword was sheathed and the katana was held in his left hand. Taking a step forward he spun in a quick circle, shooting the sword off at Shigeru Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu Hiryusen Flying Dragon Slash. He grinned as the hilt headed straight for the weapon user's face. Naruto watched as she saw the strike coming and by raising her katana managed to block the full attack, sending it askew and grazing her head. Damn it. Naruto sighed, thought that would work. It was a good effort. Akisum noted, I've never seen kenjutsu like that. Thanks. But it doesn't do much good if the hit doesn't make contact. Naruto replied. Well then we can just spar again. Shigeru replied as she returned his katana, you have a talent at this. The next day began Naruto's training, first with Akisum who had Naruto strapped with weights in the shape of budhas, weighing so much that Naruto was amazed that he was able to move. As he went through the various chores with these attached, Akisum soon took them off and began going over the basics of jujitsu with Naruto. Once lunch was over it was Apache's turn and the giant proved to be a hard hitter. One kick sent Naruto flying across the massive yard and Apache looked terrified that he had hurt Naruto, but the blonde got back up with blood running down his face, a grin on it as he went back for more, much to Apache's joy. Once Kenichi and Mew returned, Naruto helped them with the chores and watched a spar between the two and noted that Kenichi couldn't bring himself to even hit Mew, though Naruto doubted that he could. Once the spar was done and Kenichi went off with Akisum to train, Naruto went off on his own to work on his academy Taijutsu. As he went through the practice kata, Sakaki watched and after a few moments stood up and stopped the blonde. What the hell are you doing? He asked. Going through the practice kata. Naruto replied, this is what my senseis back home taught me. They taught you wrong. Sakaki replied as ordered Naruto into the starting stance here, bend your knees more. Bring your arms closer to your chest, you're trying to fight like a martial artist, not a berserker. Sakaki continued teaching Naruto until Mew shouted to them that dinner was finished and soon they were all seated around the table, enjoying a delicious meal. Once dinner was done Naruto volunteered to do the dishes, which there were a ton of while Kenichi went off with the next master. Once Naruto finished cleaning the mountain of dishes he went outside to find Ma-Kensei waiting for him. It's time we got started on you training. He said. Ma's training was unusual to say the least and at one point he tried to have Naruto help him peep on Shigeru, which Naruto knew would be a bad idea as the kunai almost hitting Ma in the head proved. For a week this cycle of training continued with Naruto working a spar in with Shigeru at least once a day and all of the masters were pleased with his work ethic. By the end of the first week Naruto was advancing at a startling rate, shocking Kenichi that the blonde was more talented than him, but Naruto was always kind to Kenichi and so the boy didn't feel as upset as he would have been if Naruto had gotten a big head. Talent is only so good. Hard work is the more important thing and you are a genius when it comes to that. Naruto told the boy as they finished washing dishes one night. You think so? Kenichi asked. No so. Back home, I was the class failure. Everyone hated me and either ignored my very existence or tried to sabotage me. I still have a lot of bad habits that I picked up that Sakaki-sensei is working on fixing. Naruto explained, but you know what I work at and with the right teachers you can do just about anything. Kenichi smiled at Naruto's encouragement and the next day instead of Mew sparring him, Naruto entered the ring. Time to see how I've progressed compared to you. Naruto told Kenichi as they both bowed to the other and took fighting stances. The fight started with Kenichi soon on the retreat as Naruto was a far faster opponent than Kenichi thought he would be and was shocked with how Naruto barely moved to dodge his attacks and would slip through the gaps and strike with the various styles that he had been learning. After sparring like this for close to 10 minutes, Naruto stopped and helped Kenichi stand up while nodding at the other boy. You're really good. Kenichi panted. Lots of practice on my end. Naruto replied, you'll probably wipe the floor with me one day. Kenichi only laughed at this while the masters were having their own discussion. He has some talent. Akisum noted and whoever taught him kenjutsu was a genius. He managed to take the lessons from his kenjutsu and incorporate them into his martial arts. He's more than talented. Ma-Kensei nodded. He's not vain either. A good quality. Sakaki added. Appa. He is Apache's second favorite student. Apache agreed. But he isn't a Kitsujikan fighter. Shigeru noted. Isn't he? Apache asked. He's killed. Elder nodded. You can smell the blood on his soul and he carries it like a heavy burden. It is a good sign that he understands that killing isn't the answer, but the fact that he has killed will always taint his martial arts. So he isn't going to be like Kenichi. Akisum nodded. Maybe not exactly the same, but he will be similar. Elder nodded. He will take our lessons to heart and maybe one day he can fully commit to the path Kitsujikan. Until then we can only help him go in the right direction. The other masters nodded at this and all looked at Naruto in new light, seeing the subtle signs that Shigeru and Elder had picked up on right away. By the end of the first month Naruto had changed his wardrobe again, donning black pants, a white shirt with an orange swirl on the front and wearing a long black coat. He only wore this when he was out in the city with Kenichi and Mew to help with the groceries, otherwise he still wore his clothes from his time with Kenshin. It was just after a month and a half when Naruto went out with Kenichi and Mew to get groceries that Naruto learned that Kenichi had attracted the eyes of some very dangerous people. They were just leaving the grocery store when 10 punks cut them off, some holding pipes and knives. "May we help you?" Naruto asked as he looked at the punks who told him to step aside so they could deal with Kenichi. Now Naruto only sighed as he set down his bags and stepped towards them. "Didn't you hear me? Get out of the way," the apparent leader shouted. Naruto smirked as he took another step towards them and one of the punks took a swing at him with the pipe. This started a very short brawl with Naruto twisting and grabbing the pipe while bringing a knee up and smashing the punk's face. Pulling the pipe from the punk's hand he turned and used it to block the swing of another pipe-wielding teen and while the teen stumbled a bit Naruto stepped into his zone and with an open hand strike broke his nose. Leaning back Naruto dodged the knife-wielding teen and grabbed his arm and threw him over his shoulder into a pile of trash cans. Turning to look at the other punks they all started to back away from the blonde that moved with such fluid and deadly grace that they knew they were looking at someone that would be close to the par of 1 the 8 fists. It wasn't long before they all ran off and Naruto looked over at Kenichi who was starting to apologize. "Just who were they?" Naruto asked. "They're part of a street gang called Ragnarok." Kenichi began as he explained how all this had started and once finished Naruto nodded and walked back with them to the dojo. That night Naruto took Kenichi into the wooded backyard and faced the disciple. "What I'm about to teach you is going to help sharpen your sense of danger. This should help you avoid dangerous situations and when developed enough you can use it to do what I did earlier today and flow from one opponent to the next without having to worry about being overwhelmed," Naruto explained. "Okay," Kenichi nodded. "So what are you going to do? Hunt you?" Naruto replied as he stepped back and disappeared into the shadows. "What?" Kenichi shouted in fear as suddenly a kunai embedded itself right in front of him, causing him to jump back in fear just as a shuriken went by right where his head is currently at. "This is your training. All of these weapons are dull practice ones, but they will hurt if you get hit. And since pain is a very good motivator at times this will make sure that you learn quickly," Naruto explained from the shadows as he moved. "Try to think like I would and you might be able to avoid the majority of what I plan on doing tonight." Kenichi was now terrified and would continue to be as Naruto did this training with him every 3 days. It was close to 3 months when Naruto finally felt like it was time to leave, donning the clothes that he normally wore in the city and packing the other wardrobe into a small pack that Mew had helped him pick out during one of their shopping trips. He said his farewells to everyone, getting a list of training exercises to do every day while he was away from each of the 4 masters that he trained with and once done, he made his way out of the dojo and found a secluded area where he flashed through the hand signs again and entered the portal once it opened. That city. For the 3rd time Naruto was traveling through the portal heading for his next destination. This time he felt as though it was going to be the last time it wouldn't take him home. "Hey Kyuubi. What kid? Where do you think we are heading this time?" "I don't know. Somewhere different from the others, that much is certain. I mean I'm watching through your vision and I swear I just saw a sun with a face laughing. And it was a creepy looking sun, as in like monster, not children's show. I saw it too. It was rather bizarre." The two were silent for a few moments when they came to their destination. This time they landed on a spike above a small skirmish between 3 boys. 2 were fighting one who had guns and was beating them up. "Man, he's good. No kidding kid. He seems stronger than most. We should see if he will train you, it would be interesting to see you using those weapons of his." Naruto continued to watch the battle until the guns transformed into massive cannons that blasted the 2 boys. Naruto observed for a bit longer before he saw the gun user collapse, spitting out blood and saying something about his symmetry collapsing. Sighing Naruto leapt off the point he was on, landing next to group. "That was almost amazing." He sighed as everyone stared at him. "Excuse me, but who are you?" a girl in the school's dress code asked. "Oh, right. The name is Naruto Uzumaki." Naruto grinned. "You a technician?" the scythe transforming kid asked. "Not sure." Naruto shrugged as the girl stared at him for a moment. "Your soul is unusual, there are 2, with a second one at your stomach," she noted. "Lieutenant." Naruto nodded. "Tenant?" the teacher asked with a gleam in his eyes, perhaps some dissection would be helpful in learning what it is. "No." Naruto said, taking a step away. "I already know what it is and we are just fine the way we are." "Hey. Why is he getting all the attention? I'm the star that defeated a god," the other boy shouted. "Who the hell is the loudmouth?" Naruto asked. "This is Black Star, a demon blade technician, and I'm Tsubaki, a demon blade weapon." Tsubaki smiled from her spot of helping Black Star up. "My name is Maka, a scythe technician, and this is Soul, my scythe." Maka explained as Soul stood up and looked at him. "You seem like a cool guy." He nodded. "Thanks, I think." Naruto replied as he looked at the 2 girls standing over their partner. "I'm Liz Thompson, this is my sister Patty, and the overreacting one is Death the Kid." Liz explained as Patty continued to laugh at Kid. "And this is Professor Stein." Maka said, motioning to the scary teacher. Nice to meet you all. Naruto nodded as Kyuubi started to tense, causing Naruto to look over his shoulder and see a skull-masked figure arriving. Oh. Just WISH. Well, Diona. He said. Shit. It's Shinigami-sama. Kyuubi shouted. What? That's what he looks like. Oh, it's the real Shinigami-sama. Soul said. Good afternoon. Maka smiled. I'm here because it's my son's first day of school. He said as the Thompson sisters greeted him and he saw Kid. Unbelievable kid, you really are a handful. Shinigami looked at each of them, stopping at Naruto and looking at him for a moment. I don't believe we have met before. He laughed. Sorry. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto smiled. I see. I take it you aren't from around here? The death god asked. That's right, sir. Naruto nodded. Well then, why don't you come with us and you can stay with my son and me for a while? Shinigami replied as Liz picked up Kid. Well, now we'll take Kid home then. Bye-bye. See you later. Black Star said as Maka continued to stare at the death god. Once back at the mansion, Shinigami had Naruto follow him to his meeting room. Alright then Naruto, where are you from? Hanahagakure. Naruto nodded. Oh. That explains why the demon lord is inside of you. He laughed. It's the Kyuubi, correct? Yeah. Naruto nodded as the Kyuubi continued to panic. So what are you doing here then? Not that I don't mind visitors, it's just unusual for them to be from other worlds. But that Naruto explained his story and once finished the death god nodded. I see. Well, I suppose we could train you as well. Since your chakra in this world is the same as our soul wavelength. He nodded. I will have you seeing different people to train with for a time. Thank you, Shinigami-sama. Naruto nodded as he walked off to where they said his room was. The next day Naruto attended school with Amaka, Soul, Black Star and Tsubaki. Alright class. Stein began. Shinigami-sama has told us that we are having a guest student for a while. He will be staying with us for a time, so treat him well. Hello. Naruto said. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, looking forward to working with all of you. Is he a tech or a weapon? A person asked. Tech. Naruto replied, though I am not looking for a weapon at the moment. This got muttering from the class and an angry glare from Black Star, who was pissed he wasn't the center of attention. Once the class was finished for the day, Naruto met up with Maka, who handed him a practice side and started teaching him how to use the weapon. It was complex to Naruto, who was used to his kenjutsu, but Maka was sure to help him as they sparred. Move your feet. Don't just stand there swinging it like you're trying to clear your way through a jungle. Maka shouted as she hit him again. This is harder than it looks. He shouted as he tried again, spinning the practice side while trying to step around Maka's attacks. After a few hours of this, Naruto left and went to meet up with Black Star, who had challenged him to a duel. Now Naruto was a lot more skilled than he had been before he left, but Black Star proved to be on a different tier in hand-to-hand combat. Oh shit. Naruto cursed as Black Star almost smashed his head in. I'll teach you to try and steal my stage time. He shouted as he continued to attack. Naruto for his part was worried that the assassin was actually going to kill him at this point, seeing as how Black Star's eyes had changed and his breathing was slower despite the increase in his movement. Naruto did his best to dodge around the attacks and avoid the enraged teen, but soon he came to conclusion that it would be far too dangerous to not stop Black Star. I have to end this. Naruto growled as he leapt off some nearby buildings to get some Hiten Mitsurugi Ryuutsuise and Dragon Hammer slash. Slashing downward while flipping the blade so he wouldn't kill the show-off. Using all of his weight, Naruto managed to land a blow to Black Star's head that knocked him unconscious, forcing him to collapse on the ground. I'm sorry about that. Tsubaki apologized as she ran over. No worries. That was one of the hardest training sessions that I have had in ages. Naruto grinned. Maka continued to teach Naruto until Kid was able to stand again and took an interest in the blonde. He first got Naruto a pair of guns that were similar to what the Thompson sisters turned into and began teaching him the forms and attacks that he used, but he was a hard taskmaster. No. Kid shouted, it must be perfectly symmetrical. What's wrong with the way I was doing it? Naruto asked. It must be perfect. You cannot use Shinigami techniques with such a crude and unelegant style. Symmetry is order and order must be maintained. Kid shouted at him. Naruto only sighed and continued practicing, focusing on making the forms perfect enough for Kid to let him move on to the next one. While Naruto was trained by Kid and Maka, he made sure to practice his kenjutsu and do the exercises that his senseis had given him, finding them to be challenging, but not to the point where he couldn't do them. Once Maka had told him that he had learned everything that she could teach him, Professor Stein stepped in, teaching him about how to use his chakra in new ways. The first was to use the Soul Authority attack. You must create an unbalance in your hands when you use this technique, though once you have gotten better you can create it from anywhere in your body. Stein explained. Naruto nodded as he tried to use only his own chakra to do it but only succeeded to create a slight burst of chakra. Mix our chakras. Kyuubi advised. Will that work? Naruto asked. It just might, or it might blow off your arm. Not quite sure which. Kyuubi replied. Naruto prayed that this would work and mixed the chakras, creating a jolt of electricity from the indolence as he struck. Stein nodded at this and had him practice it more. After 3 days of this, Stein moved on to altering the perception of his chakra. By fluctuating it in different ways, Naruto could make himself harder to track by those that knew how to track chakra. In essence, you have to constantly fluctuate it or they will pick up on you and find you. This is a good way to move around enemies that have the same ability as myself and Maka. Stein explained as Naruto sat and focused on the constant shifting. It had been 3 months since he had arrived and he again started feeling the tug that he knew meant that it would be best to leave, but before he could he needed to complete one last thing. During his time here he had picked up several different things from the shops in town, including what was called a MP3 player. He had put various songs on there, including some that Soul had written. Walking back into the manor, he found Kid sitting in one of the lounges reading a book and he approached the young Shinigami. Hey kid. Naruto began. I could use your help with something. What might that be? Kid asked. I've traveled a lot and I'd like to make an outfit that incorporates everywhere I've been. Naruto began. So I was wondering if you could help me out. Of course. We shall make a perfect outfit, perfect in its symmetry. Kid exclaimed, causing Naruto to sweat drop. The entire process took a month, with 28 of the days planning it out and 2 actually making it. Once finished, Naruto said his farewells to everyone, just catching Soul, Maka, Black Star and Tsubaki before they left. Well, it's been a pleasure working with all of you. Naruto smiled as he approached them. You're leaving? Maka asked. Yeah. I need to get home, I've been away for way too long. He shrugged. Well, if you ever come back make sure to stop by. Soul replied. Now hate to cut this short but we have an extra credit assignment to do. Best of luck. Who's the target? Some cutthroat called Sunsen J. Soul shrugged as he got on the motorcycle. Well, best of luck and keep it cool. Will do. Naruto nodded as the 4 left, Black Star giving him the thumbs up. Well, I suppose that it's time to go, hopefully home. Naruto sighed as he popped his headphones in and started the jutsu, opening the gateway. Homecoming. This time in the pathway there were no new pictures and they moved with incredible speed. Before they had any time to even think about what was going on, they appeared right where they had left off, with no time having passed. Iruka and Mizuki were shocked. 1 second Naruto had been sucked into a portal and the next he appeared before them again, taller than before and in a new outfit. Naruto now wore black pants, made from the hakama he had worn in Kenshin's world, with his sword on his left side. Above the sword was a handgun with another on the other side, both within easy reach. He wore a black shirt that was given to him by Kid and a black long coat from Rimzen Paku that had been tailored to now say Kitsune Storm on the back. Humming out of a pocket were headphones that led up to his ears, where Naruto was actually singing along to the song playing. F the kid, you know how it is, hate to dismiss any mistake if it ain't right, then you must be Kidingjix mislead, because you are now slipping a bleak mind, then I give a fix simply blast eyed it ain't a trick just one click, then the second clickrest is oh my goodness, your history it ain't a mystery to entry, just that I'm not so intrigued and get it wrong son, I'm a sweet treat bang 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 bang. Have a nice dream, he was singing as Mizuki and Iruka sweat dropped. Naruto. Iruka shouted as Mizuki decided to kill the distracted blonde, throwing a windmill shuriken at him. As the bladed weapon closed and Naruto disappeared from sight. Looking up they saw him upside down with his guns out, aimed at Mizuki. Bang 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 bang, have a nice dream. He grinned as fired. The gun shot off chakra bullets that pounded into the traitor, sending him flying from the tree and into the ground. Landing, Naruto stopped his music and looked up at Iruka. Yo, long time no see. He grinned. Iruka was stunned. Not only had Naruto just dealt with Mizuki like he was nothing, but he was now standing just a head shorter than he was, easily taller than most of the other genin. Naruto, what happened? 1 minute you were gone and the next, you're like this. Really? How long was I gone for? No more than 10 seconds. Whoa. To me I must have been gone for almost 3 years. Naruto mused as he grabbed the scroll and looked at the last jutsu, the one that started all of this. I'm not sure what that jutsu is called, but it definitely is helpful. Naruto. We need to go see the Hokage right now. Okay. I'd sure like to see Gigi again. Naruto grinned as he rolled up a scroll and let Iruka tie up Mizuki. Once done they headed for the Hokage Tower where Sarutobi Hizurin was shocked at Naruto's new look, especially since he had seen him no more than 2 hours ago. Why do I have the feeling that this is going to be a long night? He sighed as Naruto handed him the forbidden scroll. Naruto then gave a quick summarization of what happened to him and his skill set now, which intrigued the old Hokage to no end. So Naruto, you were tricked into doing these things and acted to right the situation once you realized it. So we won't do anything to punish you, and since you seem to have grown up quite a bit on your travels, it is safe to say that you are now officially a genin of Konoha. Sarutobi smiled as he took out a leaf headband and handed it to Naruto, who quickly dismantled it and used it as a belt buckle. It would kill me if I messed with the symmetry of this anymore than I already have. He explained as he adjusted it. As long as it is showing, you can wear it as you please. Now remember, you need to be at the academy at 10 AM tomorrow morning. Sarutobi smiled as his surrogate grandson left to go celebrate his promotion with Iruka at the one place that would accept him, Ichiraku Ramen. Sarutobi sat at his desk, making the sign that he wanted his Anbu present. Yes, Hokage-sama. I want you to find out who placed those seals on Naruto. Once you have tracked down who it is, alert me at once. Understood. The Anbu agents nodded as they disappeared. The next day Naruto walked through the streets of Konoha, enjoying being back and barely noticing the looks people were giving him. A lot of them were still the angry looks that he had received most of his life, but a good amount were of shock and others were drooling over the new blonde shinobi. Walking into the school, he found his way to the room and he saw that there were 3 empty seats. The first was next to Sasuke Uchiha, who Naruto remembered was still being an emo over his entire clan being killed by his brother. The next seat was next to that one and the last one was next to Hinata. Naruto made a quick survey of the room, noting that first Kiba was asking Hinata out on a date and she seemed to not want to, and that only 2 other people were missing, and he knew what would happen if still stood there for much longer. So moving before he heard the stampede coming from the hallway, he used his enhanced speed to appear next to Hinata and take the seat, and before Kiba could continue to pester her, Naruto tapped her shoulder. Hey, Hinata-chan. He smiled, causing the shy Hyuga to blush madly and then faint. Should have seen that coming. He sighed. What are you doing here dead last? This is for shinobi that passed. He grinned. I did. Naruto grinned as he showed him the headband. No way. You must have made that yourself. He laughed. No way, a failure like you could have passed the test. Now Naruto had one thing that pissed him off more than anything else, and that was people laughing at him. Normally he tolerated it, but now he knew that he didn't have to tolerate things that were just hurting. So now he did the one thing no one ever expected him to do. He faded from sight, appearing behind Kiba with his guns drawn. Care to try this again? He asked as Kiba tried to make sense of what had just happened, because I have 2 friends here just dying to let loose. At this, Kiba decided to make a hasty retreat and move away from the blonde who was carrying dual guns, taking his new seat next to Sasuke, allowing Shino to move away from the sleeping Shikamaru and into the now unoccupied seat to Hinata's right. That was most interesting, Uzumaki-san. Shino noted. Just call me Naruto. He smiled, and after last night, I've decided it's time for a change. Well, that is understandable. However, I am curious as to how you passed. Extra credit. Naruto grinned as he put a headphone in his right ear and had the left one out so he could listen to everything else. The classroom had returned to normal as everyone got over Naruto's outburst except Kiba, who was still muttering about what the blonde had done. Not 2 seconds after the class had calmed down, Sakura and Ino came charging into the room. Ha! I win, Ino pig. Sakura shouted as she walked over to where Kiba was sitting. Move, mutt. I want to sit next to Sasuke-kun. Fine, he sighed after the terror wore off. Once she was seated, Ino stopped and looked up at Naruto. Hey, forehead. Isn't that Naruto sitting by Hinata? Couldn't be. She trailed off as she looked up and saw that the blonde was sitting up there bobbing his head to the music he was listening to. Sakura was shocked by this and along with Ino walked up to confront the blonde about this. Once they got up there, he was singing along to a song that neither of them recognized. If it ain't proper, it's incomplete, making me shiver because you lacking heat. Stop taking chances, it's real steep. Watch when you sleep because my Glocks creep, he sang, bobbing his head. Naruto, what are you doing here? Sakura asked. If you're here to ask me out again, then just go home because. Damn it, woman, just shut the hell up. He exclaimed, shocking the class again. It's just getting to the good part. Not enough for me to satisfy any mistakes. Let's clarify, let's put in on the classified, find the bad and boom. Bye do it together with my entourage, placing you head in the back of garage, have a little sale and sell you cheap, so please get out, I'm out of your league. You know you still don't understand the range that you stay. I ain't playing no more trad'n losing, it ain't easy to get back, you know what I'm saying. Hit your case with a big back slap with the gat and go blah blah, believe everything I touch will go platinum somehow. People around me clapping it. Yep, Aka. Sakura shouted as she tried to punch him. Naruto caught her punch and looked at her, Kai leaking out. Interrupt my music again and you're going to wish you were dead. He said slowly, now let me pause this and we can try and talk like a civilized person and a deranged fangirl. The entire class laughed at this point, but Sakura and Ino were furious. What are you doing here? He passed his examination. Iruka said before things got out of hand. Now everyone get to your seats. Glaring at Naruto, Ino and Sakura went back to their seats as Hinata looked up, finally awake. I just had the best dream. Naruto-kun came and stopped Kiba from asking me out on a date and he called me Hinata-chan. Hinata thought as she looked right and saw Shino sitting there and then left and saw Naruto bobbing his head. Hinata instantly turned red, realizing that it wasn't a dream. Iruka was giving a speech about how each of them now had more responsibility and that they had to represent their village to the best of their ability. Naruto of course didn't care, listening to the ending of the song, continuing to bob his head until it ended, right as Iruka started team assignments. Naruto ignored most of the teams until her reached Team 7. Team 7 is Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno, and Kiba Inuzuka. Your Jonin sensei is Kakashi Haddock. This earned a cheer from Sakura and moans of defeat from most of the fangirls. Team 8 is Shino Aburam, Hinata Hyuga and Naruto Uzumaki. Your Jonin sensei is Kurina Yuhei. Hinata instantly blushed, knowing that Naruto was on her team, while Naruto grinned at this, leaning back and offering Hinata a headphone for her right ear. Want to listen? He asked. She trailed off. It's okay if you don't. He shrugged. Not wanting to disappoint her crush, she took the headphone and put it in, listening to the odd song. As she listened, she started bobbing her head as well to the song and found that lyrics were indeed catchy. Where did you get this? She finally asked. From a friend of mine. The song is literally his. He wrote it. No. He doesn't have that ability, but a friend of ours did. I'd like to meet them. Maybe someday. He grinned as the song ended and their sensei walked in. Teammate, follow me. She called out as she looked at the students remaining. Following her out, they were sitting outside under a tree waiting for their sensei to speak. Alright. I suppose we should start by introducing ourselves. Since I'm your sensei, I will go first. My name is Kurina Yuuhi, my likes are genjutsu and romance novels, my dislikes are ignorant people and lazy people, my hobbies are creating new genjutsu and gardening, and I currently have no dream for the future. My name is Shino Aburam, my likes are bugs and understanding people, my dislikes are thoughtless people, my hobbies include cataloging bugs and learning about new types, and my dream is to become an excellent shinobi like my entire clan. Well, it's easy to tell what he likes. Still have to get him out of his shell more. Kurina thought. My name is Hinata Hyuga, my likes are turns red while looking at Naruto and gardening, my dislikes are my clan's hatred for the branch family and mean people, my hobbies are gardening and practicing my Jaiken, my dream is to unite my clan, and turns red again looking at Naruto. She has a crush on Naruto and it is pretty serious, could either be bad or good. Have to see how this plays out. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, my likes are my precious people, training and listening to music, my dislikes are loud obnoxious fangirls, and people who laugh at me, my hobbies are training and learning new things, and my dream is to become the Hokage someday, and if not then to be the best shinobi possible. Well, he's blunt, but something's changed about him. Must be the reason why the Hokage changed the team lineups. Alright. Tomorrow there will be one last test to see if all of you are ready to be Genin. Meet me at training ground 8 tomorrow morning and I would advise you not to eat breakfast since you will likely throw up. Kurenai said as she shunsied away, leaving the three sitting there. So who wants to go get lunch and make a plan for tomorrow? Naruto asked as he stood up, offering a hand to Hinata, who turned beet red and accepted it. Man, I've got to get her to stop blushing so much. You're a shinobi, not a miracle worker kid. Shut up. That seems like a good idea. Shino nodded as Hinata nodded as well, not trusting her voice right now. Great, Hinata-chan, you can pick the restaurant. He grinned. Hinata was shocked that for one Naruto wasn't taking control and leading them to Ichiraku Ramen and that he kept calling her Hinata-chan. Ugh. She nodded, leading them to a small restaurant that dealt with shinobi mostly. After seeing the leaf symbols, they were admitted with minimal fuss and taken to a small booth with Shino on one side and Hinata and Naruto on the other. Once they ordered, Naruto asked them if they knew anything about their sensei. I don't. But my parents might. Shino noted. I know a bit. Hinata stammered. Well, go ahead then. Naruto nodded with a smile. Well, I know she uses ninjutsu and that she doesn't have too much taijutsu skills. Alright then. All we need to do is to then break her genjutsu and then try and get her into a close quarters match. Naruto nodded. Seems like a plan. Shino nodded as their food arrived, or more precisely Naruto and Hinata's food, while Shino just had a drink with a bendy straw so his mouth wouldn't be seen. Once they were done eating, Shino left and Naruto offered to walk Hinata home, causing her to blush even more than normal. But you don't live near me. She sputtered. So? He asked confused. I don't mind. Alright. With that, Naruto walked with her back to the Hyuga estate, stopping at the gates. Well, I will see you tomorrow, Hinata-chan. He grinned as he left. Goodbye, Naruto-kun. She whispered as she went inside, wishing she had said that to his face. And yes, I used the Death the Kids theme here. I have had that song stuck in my head for weeks and so decided to use it in this for both the epicness of it and for some slight hilarity. I am also open to suggestions for other songs to have pop up in here, so just place your request in a review for me and I will look into it. Shinobi. The next day the three genin were sitting at the training ground next to three stumps quietly making plans as they waited for Kurenai to arrive. It wasn't until 20 minutes after the time she had said to be there that she arrived, carrying 2 bells and 3 bentos. Sorry I'm late. Had to wait for the rice to finish cooking. She sighed. It's okay. Naruto nodded. Now I will explain the test. You will have 1 hour to try and get these bells from me. But there are only 2 bells. Hinata pointed out. That's because one of you will be tied to the stump while the rest of us eat in front of you. And if you don't manage to get a bell then you will be sent back to the academy. Now when I say so, the test will begin. Kurenai grinned as she took out a timer and set it for 1 hour. After setting the timer she told them to start as Hinata and Shino took off into the trees while Kitsune faced down Kurenai. You weren't going to hide. No. I don't like hiding, sneaking around and all of that. I prefer to deal with things head on. Naruto grinned as his hand gripped his katana. According to his file, he doesn't have any sort of kenjutsu training, so why does he have that sword and where did he get, let alone learn to use those guns? Ready or not, here I come. Naruto said as he took off, moving at a speed that Kurenai thought only Jonin could move at. Hell's viewing gate. Kurenai muttered as the genjutsu started. Naruto noticed right away and quickly drew his guns while leaping into the air, firing several shots into the ground, forcing Kurenai to move back and away from the blind shots. What is he doing? She thought as he stopped and broke the illusion. Nice try. He grinned as he holstered the guns and charged forward again, drawing his katana Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu Doryusen ground dragon slash, swinging the katana into the earth, causing massive chunks of it and bursts and wind to shoot at the Jonin who barely dodged the attack. During all of this Hinata and Shino were getting into position. They had discussed this plan and both knew that if they weren't ready when Naruto was then the whole plan could come undone and Naruto would take the hit, not them. Naruto was now trying to slash Kurenai who was dodging, trying to get another genjutsu on the genin, but he was too quick and would interrupt her at every chance. Soon he stopped and drew one of the guns, shooting the bells off of her as Hinata and Shino charged forward, grabbing them and running as Naruto sheathed his sword and took out his other gun. Bang 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 bang, have a nice dream. He grinned as he unleashed Chakra bullet hell on Kurenai, creating a diversion as the other two got away. Once he stopped he holstered his guns and put his hands on his head as Kurenai appeared behind him. That was brave of you. She noted. It was our only chance at besting you. He shrugged as he heard the timer go off and now the penalty. With that Naruto was tied to a stump while the others ate in front of him, except Hinata who didn't eat all of her food and once Kurenai looked away sneaked him some food. Alright, now I have something to tell all of you. You pass. She smiled. What? Shino asked confused. This test was to see how well you work as a team. Which is very good and the last part was to see if you understand what being a shinobi truly means. We always look out for our own above everything else. Even if the mission must be delayed we will make sure we do everything possible for our comrades. Hinata did just that by giving Naruto food. Kurenai smiled. I thought so. Naruto grinned. This test was set up so that we would be forced to seclude a member of our group and thus make us compete against each other. That's why I removed the competition earlier by saying I would be the one who gets the penalty while they complete the objective if that was what was going to happen. So you did plan all of that. I am impressed Naruto. But I am interested as to the new weaponry. Ask Jiji about that. He knows. Fair enough. Alright Shino, why don't you head home, Hinata you untie Naruto since you fed him. I'm going to tell the Hokage that you pass and are ready for missions. Kurenai smiled as Shino nodded and left, leaving the 2 other members of teammate alone. As Hinata worked on untied Naruto, the blonde was currently thinking about the events of the last 2 days. You're free. Hinata said. Thanks. Naruto grinned. It was nothing. No, not just cutting me loose, though I do appreciate that, I meant for feeding me earlier and trusting my plan. Oh, she nodded. Yeah. Not many people trust me, so when you said you agreed to the plan it meant the world to me. He smiled. I'm happy to know you Hinata-chan. I am happy too she stammered turning a new shade of red. Naruto grinned at seeing this and kissed her cheek before he stood up. Thanks for everything. He said as she fainted. Smiling he picked her up and decided that since he couldn't take her to the Hyuga compound, it would be easier to just head to his apartment since it was nearby. Leaping up to the roofs he arrived at his apartment and walked in, thankful he had cleaned it when he had gotten back 2 days ago. Laying Hinata down on the couch he went into the kitchen, getting water boiling to make tea and setting out 2 cups. Once he was all set, having the tea leaves in the water for the right amount of time he walked over to the couch where he noted that Hinata was now awake and trying to figure out where she was. You're in my apartment. He said as he set down a cup of tea. You fainted on me and since it would be weird walking to the other side of Konoha carrying you, I figured that here would be best. I see. I'm sorry if I've inconvenienced you. Nah, it was no big deal. Besides now you finally know what the inside of my apartment looks like. He smiled, noting that her eyes got big at this. Yes, I know you followed me. Didn't figure out it was you until 2 days ago. And no, I am not bothered by this. I actually think it's kind of cute. Hinata was stunned at this. Her crush knew she had basically stalked him and he wasn't bothered by this and actually seemed to be interested in her. Then I were not rejecting me. Now it was Naruto's turn to be stunned. He had pieced it all together while he had been away and once he realized that Sakura hadn't liked him at all and that to continue to moon after her would only cause him more pain than anything else. Of course not. He smiled gently as he moved to sit next to her, wrapping an arm around her, earning a squeak of surprise. Honestly, I think you're one of the best people in Konohagakure and I'm happy to get this chance to get to know you better. Hinata was fighting the urge to faint right now but was refusing to now that Naruto had basically confessed his feeling for her. Her face still red, she looked at him and saw that while his eyes were on her, they also had a bit of a faraway look in them. "Thank you Naruto-kun," she said, trying to muster all of her courage. Naruto grinned and squeezed her a bit in the one-armed hug. "Well, let's finish the tea and then get you home." He smiled as he moved his cup over so that he wouldn't have to leave his spot next to Hinata. Hinata was on cloud 9 at this point. Not only had Naruto not rejected her, but he actually seemed interested in her. She doubted she could be happier right now and didn't even notice when she had finished her tea and Naruto was walking with her out of the apartment. "You don't have to walk me home." She smiled. "There are a lot of things I don't have to do that I do anyway." He grinned. "For example, I didn't have use my guns against Kurenai-sensei, but I did. Still, so don't worry about it." He grinned as he walked with her to her home. In the Hokage's office he listened to the Jonin say how their charges had done. Team 1, remedial training. Team 2, the same. Team 3, remedial. Team 4, going back. Team 5, needs remedial training. Team 6, same as the other 5. Finally Kakashi looked up from his orange book. Team 7, passes. He nodded. All of the Jonin present looked at the masked Jonin in complete shock. "You're joking." Asuma grinned. "I'm not. They are rough around the edges, but they can work together when push comes to shove." Kakashi nodded. "Very well. Next. Team 8 passes." Kurenai smiled and with flying colors. "I don't know what happened to Naruto, but he is a one-man army." "Really?" Kakashi asked. "He managed to break my genjutsu quickly and even more he realized exactly what happened when he was caught and attacked, forcing me back while he broke the illusion and letting the others to get in position." Kurenai grinned. "He has potential." "Very well, since Team 9 is still in rotation, so Team 10. Team 10 passes. Though they do still need a lot of work." Asuma replied. "Very well. The 3 Genin teams that passed are allowed to start taking D-rank missions. You are all dismissed." Sarutobi nodded as all but the 3 Jonin whose teams passed left. "Yes. I'm sure that all of us are going to ask the same question." Kurenai began. "Why did you change the team lineups?" "We thought that if Naruto did pass that he would be sent to Kakashi for training." Asuma asked. "I did this for a very good reason." The old Hokage sighed. "Last night Naruto had an interesting experience that changed him." "You mean the Jetup?" Kakashi asked. "The build and the weapons. We all have seen his file from the academy and it never said he showed any signs of using kenjutsu or guns for that matter." "I do mean that. He has changed a great deal. What I am about to tell you is an S-class secret even greater than the fact that the Kyuubi is sealed inside of him." "Alright." The 3 nodded. The Hokage then explained to them what Naruto had told him and how he was now far from the average Genin. "If he is that strong then I think it might be best to test him to see if he is ready to become a Chunin, if not a Jonin." Kakashi noted. "Not yet. He is strong and he does know this, but he needs to learn about teamwork and how important it is to work together. For now leave him as a Genin." The Hokage nodded. "Very well. Though he seems to understand it enough as it is." Kurenai nodded as she and Asuma left. "Sir, still why did you let Kurenai train him?" Kakashi asked. "Because he is already beyond you in kenjutsu and taijutsu. The only areas he needs are ninjutsu and jinjutsu. And while you are a great ninjutsuist, Kurenai is a great one as well and in jinjutsu Kurenai has you beat." "I see. Don't worry about it. It is for his own benefit, not because I doubt your ability." "I understand." He nodded as he left, leaving the Hokage. Sarutobi stood up, looking out the window, wondering about the jutsu that Naruto had used to get this awesome power and wondering what the cost of such a powerful technique was. Genin Brawl. For 2 weeks Team 8 was training, practicing their abilities and testing their limits. However, it was soon discovered that Naruto's limits were far beyond anything they thought. He did sprints in seconds, setting records throughout the history of Konoha, managed to spar using only his legs and still beat Hinata and Shino, and using only his guns, managed to show he wasn't limited to only shooting. It was the reason why Kurenai talked to Kakashi, Asuma and Guy about having a small tournament among their genin to test their abilities. They set up a date and once it arrived the 4 teams stood at training ground 7. Alright. Kakashi began being on time for once we are here today to have a little sparring match between the 4 Genin teams that are here. Each of you will be put into tournament lineup and from there you will face an opponent until we decide who the winner is. There are no real rules and try to avoid actually hurting each other too much. Sounds like fun. Naruto grinned. Alright, here is the lineup. Kurenai replied. First up is Ino vs Sakura. The 2 rivals glared at each other as they prepared to fight. Get ready for a boring fight. Naruto sighed as he put his headphones in and started listening to music as the 2 started to fight. Both of the girls started out by throwing shuriken at each other and then creating bushin to try and distract the other that ultimately failed. In the end it turned into what Naruto promptly called a bitch fight as the 2 were hitting, scratching each other, pulling hair and in general being very humiliating. Can I please just shoot them and say it was a draw? Naruto asked Kurenai, who gave him a smile and shook her head. Finally Sakura got in a strong left hook, knocking the blonde senseless. Asha. I win. Sakura shouted. That was the most pathetic thing I have ever seen. Naruto sighed. Next up is Kiba vs Sasuke. Kakashi grinned as his 2 students glared at each other before getting ready to fight. Contrary to the last fight, this one was fast-paced and nerve-wracking as the 2 clashed with Sasuke using ninjutsu and Kiba using Akamaru and his family's Shikyaku no Jutsu 4 legs technique and Gatsu dual piercing fang. As the 2 fought, Naruto was noting what each of them could do and decided that neither were too serious a threat but enough of a challenge to show off a bit. Eventually Sasuke managed to get in a strong kick to Kiba's face, sending him flying as he finished his jutsu. Hiten Mitsurugi no Jutsu great fireball technique. He shouted as the massive fire hit the Inuzuka, charring him a bit but not hurting him too much. Winner Sasuke. Kakashi nodded, knowing that Sasuke had indeed held back enough to not kill the boy. Next is Shikamaru vs Hinata. Kurenai said as the lazy genius and the Hyuga heiress prepared to fight. Hinata struck first, trying to disable the lazy Genin, but he simply dodged around her attacks until he took out a kunai and held it in his mouth as he sprung his trap. Hajime no Jutsu shadow imitation technique, he said as the technique caught the Hyuga and he made them walk into the center together, where his drawn kunai gave him the win. It was a good effort, Hinata-chan. Naruto smiled. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Hinata replied, returning the smile. Our 4th fight is Neji vs Lee. Kakashi stated as the 2 Genin from Team Guy prepared to battle. The 2 were opposites as Neji made a comment that Lee wouldn't beat him this time as it was his fate to be below the Hyuga prodigy. Naruto scoffed at this and wished a miniature version of Guy luck and told him not to hold back against this stuck-up jerk. The fight started with a bang as Lee attacked with a swift kick to the Hyuga's head that he quickly blocked and struck several points. This continued for several minutes until Lee stopped and doubled over in pain. Give up. Neji demanded. You cannot win. Never. Lee grinned. Winner Neji. Kakashi said, ending the fight before things got out of hand. Growling to himself, Naruto looked at Lee and knew he had been holding back, saving his best moves for another battle. Next is Tenten vs Shino. Kurenai said as the 2 walked out to fight. Tenten had several small scrolls on her and 2 medium-sized scrolls on her back and she was grinning as Shino prepared to fight her. Once the match started, Shino sent out a burst of his bugs to test her defense while he watched and prepared. As his bugs drew close, he saw that she had tossed something to the ground. A small sphere hit the ground and in a cloud of blue gas she disappeared from even his bugs. Frowning, Shino tried to find her, but his senses were of no use. Finished. Tenten said as she appeared from above with a scroll ready and aimed at him. Opening it, she unleashed a massive barrage of weaponry that landed all around the bug user, trapping him. Boom. Tenten grinned, pointing to the tags on the weapons. Winner Tenten. Kurenai nodded. And now for the last fight of the first round. Naruto vs Choji. The blonde entered the arena, looking at the large friend who was grinning at him. I hope you aren't trying to scare me with all of those new weapons. Choji grinned. Of course not. I wouldn't insult you like that. Naruto grinned as he rolled his shoulders. With the signal to start, Choji unleashed his attack Nikiden Sensha human bullet tank, causing him to expand his body size and pull his arms, legs and head inside while rolling at a high speed towards Naruto. This is going to hurt. Naruto sighed as he reared back for a punch pinch. Shouting that he unleashed a powerful punch, sending Choji flying away, crashing into several trees. Winner Naruto. Kakashi said before the blonde could decide to do any more damage. Whoa. Choji said as his eyes stopped spinning in his head. What did he hit me with? A punch? Ino stated bluntly, confused at what happened. Neji, did he use any chakra? Tenten asked. None. He simply used all of his muscle strength and punched. Neji said, deactivating his Byakugan. Alright, Sakura vs Sasuke. Kakashi said, knowing what would happen. I forfeit. I can't beat Sasuke-kun. Sakura said. Very well. Then next is Shikamaru vs Neji. Kakashi said again. No way. I won't win. Shikamaru sighed as he laid back, staring at the clouds. Then it's Tenten vs Naruto. He sighed as the blonde entered the field again, looking at Tenten with calculating eyes that made her shiver. Whenever you are ready. Kakashi said as the blonde gripped his katana. So he plans on using Kenjutsu. Tenten thought as she gripped one of the smaller scrolls. Naruto thought didn't move, watching her with that same predatory gaze that sent shivers down her spine. No choice then. She grinned as she opened the scroll, taking out her own katana and charging at the blonde who watched her for a few more moments until he disappeared from sight. She was down on the ground. What just happened? Ino asked in shock as Naruto reappeared, his katana drawn and his eyes looking cold and hard. Is that katana of yours just for show, Tenten? He asked. This surprised her since the blonde she had seen earlier had been cheerful and happy. He now seemed cold and ruthless, like an assassin. No. She replied as she leveled her blade and attacked him again. This time tracking his movements a little and blocking the first strike. Good. This would be boring if that had been your best. He replied as he spun on his heel and continued the strikes, forcing her back slowly but surely. Tenten was worried now, Naruto wasn't letting up an inch and was actually close to disarming her. Let's stop playing games. He sighed as he moved away. Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu Ryukansen Rising Wind Dragon Slash. Lunging forward he unleashed a slash at her, twisting in the process, turning it into a horizontal slash. Once he landed, Tenten collapsed, a massive bruise on her back. He flipped the blade. Asuma noted. He's very fast. Most Anbu wouldn't be able to keep up with those movements. Especially if he intended to kill. Kakashi noted. The flames of his youth burn bright if can defeat such strong opponents with little difficulty. Guy said. The final fight is a three-way battle between Sasuke, Neji and Naruto. Kurenai said as the three faced off against each other. Let's make this interesting. Naruto said to the two. How so? Neji asked. You two versus me. Otherwise this will be too easy. Naruto grinned. Your way to confident dope. Sasuke grinned as he looked at him. I'll wipe the floor with you myself. Pride goes before the fall. Naruto replied. I do not need the assistance either. It is my destiny to stand above you. Neji replied. Very well then. Naruto nodded as the match started and he placed his headphones in his ears. Bang 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 bang, have a nice dream playing. The two other boys targeted each other first, hoping to disable the one they deemed the larger threat first before they battled the dead last. Naruto however wasn't happy being ignored and had taken his guns out. It ain't a mystery to entry, just that I'm not so into get it wrong son. I'm a sweet treat. Bang 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 bang, have a nice dream, he sang as he started firing massive amounts of bullets at the pair fighting, forcing them to separate. If it ain't proper it's incomplete, making me shiver because you lacking heat. Stop taking chances, it's real steep. Watch when you sleep because my glocks creep. The two were now very annoyed that the blonde wouldn't wait quietly as they fought, so they turned their attention to him, attacking him with kunai as he leaned around them, still using his pinkies to shot the guns at the two, forcing them to dodge his aim. Whoa. Kiba whistled. Dead last has some interesting techniques. They should belong to Sasuke-kun. Sakura muttered as she watched Naruto continue to fire at the two, leaning around any attacks that the two would throw at him. Damn, this will never end if we can't get close. Sasuke growled. Oh, you want to fight close quarters? Naruto asked as he flipped through the air, using his guns like tonfas, hitting the Uchiha in the ribs, sending him flying as he continued dodging the palm thrusts made by Neji. Too slow. Naruto grinned as he kicked the prodigy in the stomach, sending him flying, followed by several shots from the guns. Turning he dodged a punch from Sasuke in the following knee, and before Sasuke could start the next attack he flipped over his head, his gun aimed below him. Bang 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 bang, have a nice dream. 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 Naruto sang as he continued to fire into Sasuke, rising higher into the air until he stopped and flipped, so he landed feet first on top of Sasuke. Winner Naruto. Kurenai grinned as the other genin were shocked at the outcome, with the exception of Hinata and Shino. How did he do that? Kiba asked. Practice. Hinata answered. But he never used those weapons when we were in the academy. He complained. Too bad. Naruto noted as he walked over to Hinata and gave her a quick hug. Now who wants to go get something to eat to celebrate me destroying this year's and last year's Rookie of the Year? You cheated. Sakura spat. Sasuke is way better than you. Naruto just sighed at this as he looked at the other genin. So any takers? Nope. Ino spat as she went to Sasuke's side. Hant. Kiba growled. Got to be home early today. I'll pass this time. Shikamaru replied. Same here. But thanks anyways. Choji smiled. I will also have to decline this time, Naruto. Shino nodded. I will. Hinata smiled. I would enjoy your company, my youthful friend. Lee shouted. I'll come too. Tenten grinned. Well then I guess it's just us four. Naruto grinned as they walked off to a restaurant to celebrate. Once the other genin left, the senseis looked at each other. Well, you see what I meant when I said that Naruto has changed since we observed him in the academy. Kurenai grinned. Yes. He has become stronger and more restrained. You could tell from his movements that whoever taught him that kenjutsu, it was created for killing. Kakashi nodded, not one that is easy to learn in a short time. And his usage of it is impressive. He times everything perfectly so that he won't kill his allies but still use the attack's full potential. Asuma nodded. And what of his other youthful fights? His skill in the art of taijutsu is incredible. Guy grinned. You are lucky to have such a youthful student, Kurenai-san. He is strong, but it's like he's not even trying yet, like this is all just a warm-up for him. She noted. It very well might be. Remember what the Hokage told us. Kakashi replied, he spent a great deal of time away, now that he is back he isn't challenged enough, it could lead to another Uchiha massacre, except this time the entire populace of Konoha. We should watch him for now. See how he acts around everyone and then decide if we should do something to help him. Asuma nodded as the Jonin left. At the restaurant where Teammate had first gone as a team, they were sitting in the booth with Hinata and Naruto on one side and Lee and Tenten on another. So Naruto, what was that kenjutsu you used? Tenten asked. It was really powerful. It's called Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu. It is an ancient sword style that pits one against many. It is a killing art, one that is not easily learned and not one easily used without taking life. Naruto replied. And you have mastered this? Tenten asked, earning a laugh from the blonde. Not even close. I learned from someone who hadn't even mastered it himself, so I had to take what he could teach me. If I ever want to fully master it I have to go find his master. Naruto replied. So what was his name? Is he a shinobi? His name was Himura Kenshin, and he wasn't a shinobi but a Hitakiri. The what? Lee asked. Assassin. He used his sword for Akusoku Zan, or swift death to evil. Naruto replied. Wow, do you think I could learn it? Tenten asked. Why do you want to learn this? Naruto asked after a few seconds, feeling like Kenshin. To become a strong Kanachi, to be like my idol Tsunade Senju. She grinned. I'm sorry. But I cannot teach you. Why? She whined. Because this sword is what my sensei called the black ship on land. It is death for any who cross blades with it. I could teach you this, but there is a chance that it could be turned for evil, and that is why we always seek to understand the reason behind the seeking of knowledge. I won't teach you Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu, but I will spar with you all you like, teach you to be a better weapon user. Naruto replied. I see. She trailed off. So Naruto, that punch you used in your first battle, what was that? Lee asked. The Appa Punch. It was one of my Taijutsu sensei's best techniques. He grinned, and his most deadly since he doesn't understand the meaning of holding back. Wow. And how strong is yours compared to his? Tenten asked. Maybe half as strong if I had to guess. He mused, but I can't be sure. Everyone simply stared at Naruto for this statement. What? Naruto, what kind of people have you been training with? Tenten asked, worried about the blonde. Let's put it this way. Most of them, normal doesn't apply. He laughed as their food was served. Once they finished eating they all went their separate ways for the day, with Naruto walking Hinata home, as he had for the past 2 months. Nami no Kuni. This is Orange Fox, I've spotted the target. White Eyes here, I am in position. This is Beetle King, I am ready as well. Alright team. Capture target. But that the 3 members of Team 8 leapt out, grabbing the horrid beast that had become known as Tora. As they were walking back Naruto was complaining as usual about having to do this job. I swear if I have to catch this damn cat one more time I am shooting it from here to the daimyo's palace. Naruto complained. I mean, how many times have we done this mission? We have completed it 20 times in the last 3 days. Shino sighed. In 50 times in the last week. See? And I know we caught it over 100 times last month. Listen, I know that this mission isn't exactly the most interesting mission out there. Kurenai began. Interesting? More like massive pain in the ass. Naruto yelled. Still, it is good practice for all of you. Kurenai sighed. I have to agree with Naruto-kun. This mission is more of a waste of time than it is worth. Hinata pointed out we could be using this time to train or work on our teamwork instead of chasing around the Lady Daimyo's cat. Kurenai wisely chose to stop arguing with her Genin team since she knew that they were right, but no other team had wanted to take the job and she knew that the more often they did this, the easier it would be to catch Tora. Once they were back they handed over the cat and listened to Iruka listing off current missions available. We have painting fences, walking dogs, helping take rocks out of gardens, and a piercing yowl was heard followed by the Lady Daimyo shouting for Tora to come back. Catching Tora? You mean killing Tora? Naruto growled as he grabbed his guns. I'm going to make the Lady Daimyo a nice new purse, made of Tora. No Naruto. Sarutobi sighed. Iruka, I think that this team has done enough D-rank missions, why not let them try their hand at a C? Well, it isn't normally allowed, Iruka muttered. Well, we could send 2 squads, like say teams 7 and 8 on this mission. Sarutobi grinned as he opened a scroll and it is an easy one, just escorting this man from here to his home in Nami no Kuni and staying with him until he finishes building his bridge. Sarutobi read. Well, that should be easy enough. Haruka nodded as he motioned for Team 7 to be let in along with the client. The client was an older man who looked like a bit of a slob and reeked of sake. As he looked about the room at the shinobi, he thought it was a good idea to open his mouth. These are the people guarding me, they're mostly kids and women. And I don't like the look of that blonde one. He griped. Now, as you can safely guess, Naruto was in no mood to play nice and fired 2 warning shots past the man's head before he could even blink. Go ahead, make another comment, see what happens. Naruto growled, keeping the guns leveled. Naruto, you need to calm down. Kurenai sighed as the blonde finally lowered the guns. I'm sorry about my student, he has a bit of a temper when people decide to mock him. Okay, the man said, noting that the blonde was not to be messed with. Don't worry, sir, well, they may be young, each one of them is a strong shinobi. Kakashi promised as they prepared to leave. They better be. I'm Tazuna, a famous bridge builder in Nami no Kuni. He boasted as they left. 2 hours later they were on the road when Naruto noticed a puddle of water in the road. Drawing his guns, he fired into the puddle, scaring everyone there. What was that for? Sakura shouted. Wait for it. Naruto grinned as he walked over and dragged 2 shinobi who were unconscious out of the water. I don't like surprise shinobi on the road, especially when they are rouges. Well, it's good that you noticed that, but we were going to let them attack to see if they were after us. Kurenai said as Naruto rubbed the back of his head. Whoops. He grinned as he finished tying the 2 up. A few minutes later the 2 Oni brothers woke up, seeing a large group in front of them. They knew that they were in trouble. Ah, they're awake. Naruto grinned as he looked at them. So gentlemen, depending on your answers I might not shoot you again. Naruto, Kakashi warned. Let him do this. Kurenai said Anko is looking for another intern at the I&T department and I promised I'd send someone. Kakashi sighed and watched as the blonde had the 2 at gunpoint, waiting for their answers. You realize the longer you take the itchier my fingers are getting. He said. Be your worst, you Kanaharat. We won't tell you anything. One of the brothers yelled. Really now? Naruto asked with a grin. Holstering his guns and cracking his knuckles, he took out a small kit from his backpack and started going through the contents. No, too bloody, don't have the right tools handy. Ah, perfect. Naruto then removed a small vial filled with a black liquid. Tell me gentlemen, have you ever heard of the black mamba? It's a very poisonous snake that can kill animals that are much larger than it, even most humans. What I have here is a concentrated dose of venom, enough to kill both of you. However, I only have one antidote to this poison. So here is what is going to happen. I'm going to inject the both of you, and this venom works very quickly in this state, especially when injected directly into your bloodstream, compliments of your carotid artery. So it basically means you have the next 20 minutes to start talking after I inject you. He grinned as he injected each brother with the help of a cage bushin. The brothers at first didn't do anything, trying to make sense of the situation that had just happened. Then they looked at each other, not knowing what to do, since neither of the 2 wanted to die and only one could be saved. The clock is ticking away. Naruto grinned as the 2 started arguing until finally they both said at the same time. Okay, we were sent to kill Tazuna. Really? Explain more. Naruto grinned as the 2 started talking. They explained how Gato had hired them to go and kill the bridge builder along with any shinobi that he had managed to hire, then bring his head back as proof of a job completed. Well, this is helpful. Kurenai-sensei, Kakashi-sensei, what's the plan? Naruto asked. Well, this is definitely a low A rank mission now, normally beyond the ability of a fresh Genin team. Kakashi nodded. However, we think that we should continue on, since it is obvious that Tazuna knew and simply couldn't afford anything higher, am I right? Kurenai asked, looking at the man. It's true. It's why the bridge is so important. Once it's done, Gato's hold on us will be broken. Tazuna nodded. Well then, we will go on and complete this mission, but once Nami has recovered we expect full payment for an A rank mission. Kakashi nodded as Tazuna nodded his thanks. Hey! The brothers shouted. What? Naruto asked, looking at the 2. What about the anti-venom? They shouted. Oh, that. I lied. Naruto grinned as he walked off. All I did was inject you with ink, so you might be sick for a few days while you sit in an Anbu jail cell. The brothers were in shock at this turn of events. They had been outwitted by a kid and were now going to be taken to prison. The Genin were shocked by this while Kurenai was restraining giggles and Kakashi just shook his head. If that boy Dango, and he would be a male version of Anko. Kakashi sighed. No kidding. Anko-chan is going to love him. Kurenai giggled as they walked. 2 days later they arrived at the ferry that would take them into Nami no Kuni, and while they remained silent Naruto was on edge. As they disembarked and made their way on a forest path, Kiba, trying to show off to Hinata, threw a kunai into a bush, scaring out a white rabbit. Kiba, you idiot. Sakura shouted as she hit him, you scared that rabbit. Hey kid. Yeah? It's spring isn't it? Yeah. Why is that rabbit white then? Duck. Naruto shouted as a massive sword flew over their heads. Standing up, Naruto saw the bandaged face of one of Kiri's most famous nin, Zabuza Mamachi. Well. What have we here? My target protected by 8 shinobi and only one of them is in my bingo book. Zabuza laughed. This is going to be fun. He laughed again as he sent a burst of Kai at the group, scaring most of the other genin except Naruto who shrugged it off, returning his own, that was double of Zabuza's. Kakashi-sensei, Kurenai-sensei. Naruto stated. Yes? Kakashi asked. Leave him to me. Naruto replied, his eyes getting the cold look in them. Are you sure? Kurenai asked. Without a doubt. This is the first real opponent I can fight without restraint. So it's best if you guard the others, make sure Zabuza doesn't try to pull a fast one. Naruto nodded. Alright. Kurenai nodded as Kakashi tried to find a way to protest this. Don't worry Kakashi-sensei. I know what I'm doing. Naruto replied. Kakashi only nodded as he stepped back, letting the blonde face the bandaged traitor. So you're the one letting off all that Kai. Thought it was another jonin nearby. Zabuza laughed. Don't underestimate me Zabuza-san. It may be your last mistake. Naruto replied as he grabbed his katana. So you know Kenjutsu. I doubt that you are too good though. Famous last words. Naruto replied as he struck. Unleashing a quick draw he slashed at Zabuza, forcing the nin to grab his blade and leap off the tree it was embedded in. As Naruto finished the attack the tree started to slide down, showing the damage done by the slash. Oh. So you do have some skill. Zabuza grinned Suiton. Kurigakur no Jutsu hit and miss technique. This created a giant cloud of mist around the 8 points on the human body that can be used to kill a person. Over 100 ways to cripple a man. Naruto continued and 2 ways to shut someone up. Oh really? First is to cut out their tongue and rip out their voice box. Second is to simply force them to. Naruto replied as he blocked an overhead strike from Zabuza. Turning Naruto unleashed a flurry of slashes at the bandaged swordsman. Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu Ryusosen double dragon slash. He said as the attacks hit the massive flat of the blade, being used as a shield. Taking off Naruto kicked the sword back, knocking Zabuza off balance as he used this to cut the man in 2, finding that it was in fact a Mizubushin. Not bad kid. You aren't just some squirt who took his daddy's sword. Zabuza laughed, but you are no killer. Really? Naruto asked deciding to let loose and show Zabuza why his master was feared during the Bakumatsu and why he was the student of that legendary Hitakiri. Letting loose a massive burst of Kai he scattered the mist around him, revealing 2 Zabuzas near him, both ready to strike. Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu Ryukensen Tsumuji Rising Wind Dragon Hair Spin. He shouted as he took off in a blur that not even Zabuza could react to, cutting down the 2 clones without a moment's hesitation and then blocking the follow-up strike that Zabuza had tried to make. Alright, you are very good kid. Not many people can say that they have crossed blades with me and lived. Zabuza laughed. How about you ditch those Konoha fools and join me? Thanks, but no thanks. Naruto replied I'm happy with my life for once. And I'm not about to screw that up. You're lost kid. Now I have to kill you. Zabuza growled. If you can. Naruto grinned as he slipped under Zabuza's guard, kicking him in the chest while sheathing his katana. Badajutsu? Zabuza asked, looking at the blonde intrigued. Yeah. I was trained by one who has the title of Badasai, so of course I have learned many of his ways. Naruto grinned ready to test your luck. Try me. Zabuza laughed as they prepared to clash. Kakashi-sensei, what's Badajutsu? Sakura asked. A risky form of Kenjutsu. It's all about speed and how fast you can draw your blade before your opponent can react. If it works it is usually an instant kill, but if it misses, then you are left wide open and are likely to be killed yourself. The fact that Naruto is using this either means he has faith he can beat Zabuza this way or that this was a harder fight than we thought it would be. Kakashi explained. Grinning Naruto took the step forward, his blade moving out of the sheath at a speed that only one trained in the art of God speed would be able to follow. Zabuza was trying to raise Kubikiri Hacho in time to block the attack or at least deter it. As Zabuza brought the sword up he managed to block the slash, sending the sword off a bit, making a shallow cut along Zabuza's chest. Ha! I win. He shouted as he prepared to kill Naruto and missed the sheath following behind the katana, smashing into his elbow, making a sickening cracking sound. Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu Badajutsu Soryusen paired dragon flash. Naruto said I would give up now Zabuza. That strike has crushed your elbow and the nerves connecting it to your hand. You can't even use jutsu with that hand now. He not bad Gaki. You got some talent there. Zabuza laughed, but I'm not done yet. Yes you are. Kakashi replied as he and Kurenai stepped forward. You can't hope to win now. That's what you. He trailed off as 2 senbon needles shot into his neck. Looking up Naruto noticed the masked nin standing there. Thank you for your assistance. The nin said I have been tracking down Zabuza for some time. You're welcome Hunter-san. Kurenai nodded. Well I'm curious as to why you didn't attack while we were fighting, I mean you had the perfect opening while we fighting. Naruto growled, not trusting this newcomer. You were too close, and after seeing how fast you could move I didn't want to accidentally kill you. The nin replied now I must take this body and dispose of it. I thought you burned the bodies here. Kakashi noted as the nin grabbed the body and disappeared. We were just tricked weren't we? Naruto sighed. I think we were. Kurenai nodded as they turned and accompanied Tazuna back to his house. The 9 people walked in where they were introduced to Tazuna's daughter Tsunami. Thank you for getting my father home safely. She smiled. Of course. We will of course be staying until your father has finished the bridge. Kakashi nodded. Of course. We have enough room for all of you. She replied as a young boy walked down. He stared at them for a moment before he went back upstairs. Who was that? Sakura asked. Inari, my son. Tsunami nodded he's still upset over what happened to his father. Geto killed him for opposing his takeover. So he's being a baby. Naruto replied as he walked outside Kurenai-sensei, I'm going to train in the woods. Come get me when it's time to eat. Of course Naruto, don't overexert yourself. Kurenai nodded. Is he always so blunt? Tsunami asked. He is. He doesn't like to dance around a subject, he prefers just saying it like he sees it. She sighed he's a good person though. Somewhere deep in the forest, inside a large building the hunter nin was taking out the senbon needles in Zabuza's neck. I hate it when you do that. Zabuza growled as the needles were removed. I am sorry Zabuza-sama. But it is the easiest way of faking your death. I don't care Haku. So our first strike was a bit of a bust. He growled. It would appear so Zabuza-sama, though we do know that the blonde one is not to be taken lightly. Agreed. If we want to complete this job we are going to need some backup. He growled I want you to go out and gather some strong nin to bolster our forces for when we fight them again. And while you are out, get a skilled medic nin, whether willing or by kidnapping. I need this arm repaired. Of course Zabuza-sama. The arm will come first, and while you recover I will make sure that we have another 1 or 2 Jonin level nin working with us. Haku nodded. Standing up Haku headed for the door, only to have Geto walk in. So what happened to the Midori no Kiri? He asked with a grin. I underestimated my opponent and paid the price. Zabuza replied the shinobi that they hired are strong. So we will be getting some additional assistance before we deal with them. HRM. I'm not paying them to do this. Geto grunted. That's your choice. I will still send them to you once the job is finished. Zabuza laughed now if there is nothing else, I will be asking you to leave. HRM. Just finish off that bridge builder and those damn shinobi. Geto replied as he left. I really hate that fat sack of lard. Zabuza cursed. I agree Zabuza-sama. Haku nodded, heading to go get the medic nin needed for Zabuza. The next day Kakashi and Kurenai had taken their genin out into the woods to continue training them. Today we are going to be teaching you how to climb trees without using your hands. Kakashi stated as he and Kurenai demonstrated, each of you will do this until you can climb up to the top in one go. The genin nodded, each of them trying, with Naruto failing the most. As soon as he had set one foot on the tree he had gone shooting off of it. I think that was too much chakra. He said as he shook the dust off himself. No kidding dope. Your chakra control still sucks. Sasuke grinned as he tried and slid right off the tree. That's because I have at least 3 times the amount that you do. Naruto replied as he walked back up to the tree, this time cracking the bark with each step he took, but managing to get 3 meters up the tree until he slipped off. The day continued like this until Sakura, Shino and Hinata had completed the exercise, but only Sakura leaving. Why are you two staying? Kiba asked. Because the extra practice couldn't hurt our controller or reserves. Hinata replied as she looked over at Naruto, who had now managed to get halfway up the tree before falling off and having to correct himself in midair. That night while the shinobi were eating Kakashi asked how the training was going. I've finished the exercise as has Shino, so we are practicing until Naruto-kun is finished so we can work on our teamwork. Hinata replied. I've gotten about 1/3 of the way up. Kiba grinned. I'm just at the halfway point. Sasuke replied, causing Kiba to growl. I'm at the 3/4 mark. Naruto sighed this is why I hate having so much chakra, it makes control almost non-existent. I don't get why you all try so hard, Gato's just going to kill you guys in a sea of his thugs. Inari whined. Inari? Tsunami exclaimed. Keep dreaming kid. Naruto grunted as he continued eating. It's true. He's just going to kill you and everything will go back to the way it was before so you might as well just leave. Inari, things never change unless you try to change them. Naruto replied looking at the kid if you don't try then you might as well just kill yourself and end your suffering. What do you know about suffering? You probably have a nice home and a family waiting for you back home. You couldn't understand what I've gone through. A deathly silence fell over the table as the Jonin looked at Naruto with worry. You think you have it bad? He asked, shaking his head. You think your life is hell? Yeah. You know nothing about my suffering. Baka. Naruto shook. I would take your life over what mine was any day of the week. I've been beaten by the people I now protect, I've been in the hospital more times than the record keepers could keep in a single folder, and now have an entire room in the hospital for my records, along with my own designated room. I have been in the deepest pits of hell where not even your worst nightmares can compare. So don't even think that you are the only one who knows about suffering. Naruto stood up after this speech, heading for the door. I'll be in the woods, training. The room fell silent as they all thought about the blonde's words. Kurenai-sensei, he was kidding, right? Hinata asked. I wish he was. She sighed. Naruto gave all of you a watered-down version of events. The reality is much worse. You can't be serious. Tazuna gaped. We are. Kakashi sighed. Naruto is treated worse than most people treat a rabid animal. He has been beaten almost every day of his life and has been sent to the hospital so many times that they keep a specific room reserved for him alone. The Hokage for the longest time was the only person who was nice to the boy directly. Most of the Anbu look out for him by trying to stop the worst of the attacks, but there aren't always enough of us and we can't always stop them. The worst is on October 10th, his birthday. The mobs are so massive that it would take all of the Jonin shinobi in the village to stop them. And many of the Jonin join in the mobs, helping to lead them. That's awful. Tsunami gasped. It's been his life since he was born. He has been hated for something that he had no control of. Most of us who were in the Anbu at the time of his birth know this and try to help him, but we cannot be everywhere at once. Kakashi sighed. What is the reason for such horrid acts on such a young boy? Tazuna growled. We can't say. Kurenai sighed. It's a S-class secret that only the Hokage and Naruto can reveal. Does he know why? He does. He learned on his own apparently, and for him it explains enough for why the village did what they did, but he has chosen to not seek retribution, and he easily could. Kurenai replied. There is very little hatred in that boy. I'm amazed he hasn't left for somewhere that would treat him better. Tazuna snorted. You were right, people do treat rabid animals better than your village has treated that boy. Inari was silent at this point, knowing that he had no right to complain compared to what Naruto had gone through. The rest of the genin were speechless as they stared in the direction Naruto had walked off in. They all had homes and families waiting for them, or at least had memories of them to help comfort them when they were upset, but Naruto had never had anyone other than the Hokage, and he wasn't always there for him. Sasuke recovered first, simply blowing off the thought as dramatization, as did Sakura. Kiba felt bad for Naruto, but not enough to actually do something. Shino and Hinata traded looks, knowing full well that they were the sort of bridge for Naruto to try and feel like he had a family, and neither wanted to shrink away from such a task. Naruto was training, trying to work off his frustration by practicing his marksmanship, constructing targets that he quickly started shooting holes into. As he shot, more of his anger was coming out, giving him a sinister red aura as the Kyuubi's chakra was drawn out. Soon the shots became explosions, and the targets became craters. Once finished, Naruto was exhausted, collapsing on the ground where he was soon asleep in the damaged clearing. Haku walked silently in the dawn light, moving towards a clearing where some herbs that would help ease pain were growing. Entering the clearing, the shinobi instincts that Zabuza had refined kicked in. Taking a step back, Haku noted that there were several small craters in the ground, and the blonde boy who had hurt Zabuza was asleep, his handgun still drawn. How peculiar, Haku thought, moving closer to the blonde, who seemed to be asleep. Kneeling down, Haku reached over to touch the boy when his eyes shot open and the guns were aimed at Haku's head. Oh, you're awake. Haku smiled. Who are you? He asked. I live out here. I'm just gathering herbs and found you in this clearing. I wanted to make sure you were alright. Naruto was silent for a moment before he put away his guns. She's actually kind of cute. He thought, maybe Kit. But something's off on this one. Kyuubi muttered. Standing up, Naruto offered her a hand, which she took gently. Once they were standing, Naruto offered to help with gathering the herbs, since he didn't really want to head back to the others yet. Well, you are kind. What is your name? Naruto Uzumaki. He smiled. And you? Haku. Haku nodded. So are you a mercenary? Shinobi. Naruto corrected. I'm not low enough to be hired by anyone who has money. But you are low enough to kill. Only if I have to. Naruto shrugged. Shinobi die all the time in the line of duty, if not on missions then in wars. It is better to be willing to accept that you may have to take someone's life to save your own or someone precious to you. I see. Haku nodded. So what were you doing out here all by yourself? Training and releasing stress. Naruto nodded as Haku continued to question him about his training. Now she is definitely up to something. Naruto thought. Agreed. She's grilling you for information. She might be working with Zabuza. Well, that makes things problematic. Not really. Just don't answer her, change the subject, or be very vague with your answer. Kyuubi chuckled. So Naruto, do you have anyone precious to you? Haku asked. I have a few. Naruto nodded. That is good. If a person wants to be strong they need someone for them to protect, a reason to acquire strength. Haku smiled. I agree there. If you fight only for yourself then you are weak, fight for others, then you can have unlimited strength. Naruto grinned. Well, I must be going. Haku replied as she started to walk off, and by the way, I'm a boy. This caught Naruto off guard, causing him to slip and look back at the long-haired person, watching the sway of their hips. If Haku is a boy then I'm the Hokage. He growled. Ha 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 ha. Kyuubi laughed. That was hilarious. Though you are probably right. No normal guy swings their hips like that. Naruto simply shook his head, walking back to the training area to finish practicing climbing trees. By mid-afternoon he managed to get to the top several times, on many different trees, and was now watching Kiba and Sasuke continue to fail. Naruto-kun. Hinata called from below the tree. Yeah? Kurenai-sensei wants to see you. Be right down. He called down as he leapt off the tree, bouncing from branch to branch as he landed until he landed on the ground. Once he landed he followed Hinata to where Kurenai and Shino were waiting by the water. Took you too long enough. Kurenai sighed. You two start making out or something. This earned a large blush from Hinata, who almost fainted at the thought while Naruto just shook his head. If I didn't know any better I'd think you might be trying to get me and Hinata together. Naruto sighed. Of course not. Kurenai denied while thinking, is he catching on to me? I don't want him to find out about the bet between the Jonin. My god, I'm becoming Anko-chan. So would you ask for us? Naruto asked. I've called all of you here since I feel that it is about time that you started learning how to use elemental jutsus. Which is why I'm speeding up your training and having you use these. She explained as she took out 3 pieces of paper. This is chakra paper. It will tell you your affinity for an element. If it burns it's fire, cuts in half it's wind, crinkles up as lightning, turns to dust as earth, and getting wet as water. All you have to do is pour your chakra into the paper. Nodding, the genin each took a slip of paper and began pouring the chakra into it. Shino's turned to dust, showing his earth affinity, while Hinata's got wet, showing her water affinity. Naruto's did something interesting. It split in half and then burned. Whoa. He whistled. How did that happen? My affinity for fire is influencing you. So now your own natural affinity and my affinity are on equal ground and will always be. Kyuubi explained. What does that mean? Naruto asked. It means that you have an equal affinity for wind and fire. Kurenai replied. This means that since each of you have a different affinity, I won't be able to help you all too much, but I can get you instructors who can. Like whom? Shino asked. Well, I have a water affinity so I can help train Hinata, as well as you Shino, since I have a minor affinity for earth. Naruto, I am going to have Kakashi helping you for right now, and once we get back to Konohagakure, I will see who can help you with wind and fire. Kurenai replied, but I do know a few wind jutsu that I can teach you now. Nodding, the 3 began memorizing the jutsu that Kurenai showed each of them, slowly beginning to practice it until they were able to perform them from memory. Naruto wasn't able to get many jutsu since Kurenai only knew a few weaker ones, but they were better than nothing, as he put it. Once he had finished he watched the others practicing, making plans on how they could plan their strikes and attack together. That evening Naruto took his meal and sat outside, eating away from everyone, avoiding another fight with Inari or the questions that there were bound to be from the others about his past that he was sure that Kurenai and Kakashi had only hinted at. Once he had finished he heard someone approach him. Naruto-kun. Yes, Hinata-chan. And may I join you? If you want. He nodded, moving over so that Hinata could sit next to him. Nodding her thanks, she sat next to him, a comfortable silence falling over them. After a few moments Hinata finally spoke. I'm sorry. For what? For everything. Everything that has happened to you. You don't have to apologize. You were always nice to me, even if I never knew it at the time. You have always been a silent companion for me, and I appreciate it more than anything. You shouldn't be apologizing. But, you have suffered so much, and for something that isn't even your fault. She sobbed. A small smile spread across Naruto's lips as he hugged Hinata. Listen, Hinata-chan. While it is true that my life has been harder than anything anyone alive has probably gone through, I have had some great things happen. I became a shinobi, I met all of my senseis, I was placed on teammate with Kurenai-sensei, Shino, and best of all you Hinata-chan. I believe that my life is finally turning around and that I'm happy that you are here to make it all the better. Hinata smiled as she looked at Naruto and saw the smile he was giving her. It was different the other ones that she had seen for most of the time she had known him. This smile was genuine and not for attention, it was for her and her alone. Leaning closer, she felt the sudden rush of bravery and did the one thing she had always wanted to do but never had the courage before now. She kissed the blonde. Naruto was shocked by this and was stock still, but once he recovered he kissed her back. Separating, Hinata realized what had happened and promptly turned red and fainted, a smile on her lips. Should have seen that coming. He sighed as he picked her up bridal style and took her into the house, taking her up to the girl's room. After Kurenai was done laughing at the red Hyuga in the arms of the blonde, she took Hinata and put her to bed as Naruto left the room, going to sit on the roof for a while. In the woods, Zabuza was grinding his teeth in pain as the medic worked on his arm. Arg. He cursed through the leather bite piece he had. I'm sorry. But whatever happened to your arm destroyed the entire joint, blocking the chakra paths along with the tendons. There will be much discomfort for a few days, but in a week you should be able to have your arm function normally. The medic explained as he worked. Haku. Zabuza growled as he spat out the leather. Yes, Zabuza-sama. Have you managed to find anyone useful? 1. She will arrive in a few days, but she will be able to easily fight the Jonin while you get your rematch against Naruto. Fine. As long as he can hold off those Jonin and you deal with those Genin. Have you freed the Oni brothers? Yes. They are happy to be given the second chance. Haku nodded. Good. You three will be dealing with those Genin with them. Once we are finished we can kill that bridge builder and finally leave. Of course. Haku nodded, turning to leave. For the next week the tension grew as the Konoha teams continued practicing, working on teamwork, now that everyone had completed the tree walking exercise. Hinata and Shino had learned several elemental jutsu to complement their fighting styles, as well as work with Naruto's fighting style, whether he used his taijutsu, kinjutsu, or his guns. Team 7 focused solely on teamwork, as Kakashi said they weren't ready to learn jutsu just yet, which aggravated Sasuke to no end, as he pestered the members of Team 8 to teach him what they were learning. For the last damn time, no. Naruto shouted at Sasuke as he practiced his Muay Thai. You will. He shouted as he tried to punch him and was quickly kicked in the stomach, followed by an elbow to the face, sending him flying. Like you could make me. Naruto laughed as he went back to practice. 2 weeks after the first fight was when they encountered Zabuza again. They had gone with Tazuna to the bridge after Naruto had left a few clones to watch the house, only to find that all of the workers on the bridge were dead. Hami above. Kurenai gasped. How horrible. Sakura sobbed. HRM. Come out, Zabuza. Naruto shouted as he walked onto the bridge. So you knew it was me. The bandaged Chunin laughed. Of course. The wounds were all made by a large bladed weapon and yours fits the bill. Well, that is very observant of you. He replied, the offer still stands to join me. No thanks. Naruto grinned. Well, I respect your strength, I don't want to become a Chunin at a Genin rank. Too true. Zabuza laughed. So we battle, but I won't let your senseis and friends just stand around like last time. Out of the mist 5 people walked out. The first one was Zabuza, whose right arm was bandaged up. The next was the masked hunter Nin, who seemed far too calm about this entire thing. The next 2 were the Oni brothers, who looked like they wanted revenge. The last was someone that Kakashi had never thought he would see again. The woman was almost as tall as Zabuza, with blood-red hair and green eyes. She had a slender figure and wore lightweight red samurai armor, enough to protect her vital parts. At her waist was a blood-red katana that seemed to emanate power. Kushina. Kakashi exclaimed. Who? Naruto asked, looking at the Jonin. She was the wife of my sensei, the Yadame Hokage. Kakashi replied. She was a famous kinjutsuist known as the Aka no Shai. Aka no Shai, the woman muttered. That name sounds very familiar. Her name is simply Aka. Zabuza replied. No, Kushina, she muttered. Why do those names sound familiar? Kakashi, how good was she? Naruto asked. One of the best. She was a terror in the Third Great Shinobi War, holding an entire flank on her own, while Minato-sensei used his Hiraishin to decimate everything in front. Kakashi replied, she's not an easy opponent to fight. And you are certain that it is her? Dead positive. I was with that woman for most of my young life. She was the one who taught me kinjutsu. Then she must be a powerful opponent. And with that smaller blade, she will be faster than Zabuza. Naruto noted, calculating. Kakashi-sensei, I want to fight that woman. Naruto, it would be best if you fought Zabuza again. You know his style and will be able to fight against it. Kakashi reasoned. No. This time he won't just use kinjutsu against me. And while my kinjutsu, taijutsu and marksmanship are incredible for a Genin, against him, I won't last long a second time. It was the reason I tried to cripple him. Naruto replied. So you know you can't beat me? Zabuza laughed. Well, if you don't think you're up to the challenge a second time, then I guess that I will have to deal with those senseis of yours. Naruto, is that woman weaker than Zabuza? Kurenai asked. No. From what I can feel, she is stronger in the art of kinjutsu, possibly in general, but I just have this feeling that she won't use anything other than kinjutsu. Naruto replied. And if she does? Kurenai asked. Well, I have to hope that the Shinigami is still watching my back. Naruto grinned. Enough talk. Time to fight. Zabuza roared as the attack began. Bridge to glory. Zabuza charged at the 2 Jonin, who quickly dodged around him, with Kurenai and Kakashi both taking out kunai to block against the massive sword Zabuza used. Skidding back, the 3 Jonin moved away from the others so they wouldn't be interrupted. The two demon brothers charged forward, already having orders not to fight Naruto. They attacked Kiba, Sakura and Shino, who leapt out of the way of the two clawed fighters. "This time we won't be humiliated," they shouted as they attacked. Haku started several one-handed signs saying Suiton. Sensatsu Suishm 1000 flying water needles of death. With that the water on the bridge rose up, creating the 1,000 of needles that tried to impale Hinata and Sasuke. Rotation. Hinata shouted, her Byakugan blazing as she repelled the attack so Sasuke could strike. Hiten. Nkakuk no Jutsu. Sasuke roared as the massive fireball rushed at Haku. Suiton. Suijinheki water, encampment wall. Haku replied as the water wall rose around her, dousing the fire, "I have the advantage Ache. Your fire will die out under the might of my water. We'll see about that." Sasuke roared as he charged at the masked nin. Naruto and Akka squared off, their hands on their katanas as they watched the other. Eventually they charged at the same time, moving at an equal speed. They clashed, the sound of their swords ringing across the bridge startled many of the fighters. Naruto noted that Akka was matching his speed perfectly while still blocking his attacks. "You're no ordinary Kenjutsuist." Naruto grinned, "But neither am I Hiten Mitsurugi Ryususan." Unleashing the multiple strikes he found that she blocked the worst of the attack, with the ones she didn't block hitting her armor and sliding off. "Akuryukai no Arashi Bloodstorm." Akka replied as she unleashed several powerful slashes at Naruto who blocked most of them while dodging the rest. After the attack the two slid back, appraising each other. "It appears that we are too strong to be holding back," Naruto noted. "So it would." Akka nodded. "What is your name, boy, and who has taught you such an unusual style?" "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and my sensei was Himura Kenshin, Hitakiri Badasai, practitioner of Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu." Naruto replied. "Uzumaki," Akka muttered. "Why does that name haunt me?" "You seem troubled, want a time out?" Naruto asked. "We do not have the time for such a thing." Akka replied as she struck, her blade flashing as Naruto used his to block. "Alright. But if you collapse later then it is your own fault," he noted as they clashed. Kakashi and Kurenai were having difficulty dealing with Zabuza since he had unleashed his mist technique again, blocking them off from the rest of their comrades. "You're too weak. I should have fought against that brat again. At least he would have been entertaining." Zabuza laughed. "Kurenai, if you could make contact with him, how quickly could you cast a Genjutsu?" 10 seconds. "And it might hold him for about a minute tops." "Alright. We have to take that chance. Next time he comes for me I'll hold him for a moment while you cast a Genjutsu." Kakashi nodded as they went back to back, waiting for Zabuza to strike again. "So you are thinking that by working together you can beat me? Keep dreaming. I have defeated dozens of people who thought that by working together and eliminating blind spots that they could defeat me. And each and every one of them was wrong." He laughed as he struck again, forcing the two to separate from each other, while Zabuza swung Kubikiri Hacho at Kakashi, who leapt over the blade, grabbing Zabuza's shoulders and flipping him to the ground. As soon as he hit, Kurenai made eye contact with him before disappearing like mist, as did Kakashi. "What the hell?" he exclaimed as he looked around trying to figure out what had happened. Kakashi had now moved his headband up, revealing his Sharingan as he started using his most powerful and original technique, the Rikiri. Zabuza soon realized what it was and broke out as Kakashi charged at him. Zabuza saw the attack coming and using a Mizubushin, blocked the worst of the attack, though still getting electrocuted. Flying back, Zabuza realized that his nervous system had been short-circuited. "Damn it all to hell," he roared. The Oni brothers thought that they were doing a great job of fighting the three Genin until they were led into the trap. "Oten. Sudden Keimusho stone, prison." Shino exclaimed as the earth rose up, grabbing the two nin and holding them for a while as Kiba and Akamaru attacked one, while Sakura used Chakra to enhance a blow to the other. "Itsuga." Kiba roared as he hit the one brother, knocking him senseless. "Pasha." Sakura shouted as she smashed the other brother into the ground, knocking him unconscious. "We win." Shino noted as the other two smiled and cheered. Sasuke and Hinata were having a very tough time. Haku had unleashed a devastating technique that she called Makamhymshm Demonic Ice Crystal Mirrors and was now trying to turn the two of them into pincushions. The only thing that had been saving them was Hinata's Byakugan. "Left." she shouted as Sasuke dodged while Hinata deflected another one. "This is impossible." Sasuke panted. "No kidding." Hinata agreed, "Even if we keep dodging these attacks, if we can't hit her we won't be able to win." "And that is the point." Haku remarked, "Well, you are doing better than all others who I have trapped in these mirrors. There is no escape and no way of destroying them." "We will see about that." Hinata growled as she used a rotation to block a massive strike from all sides, "But you can't keep this up forever. You will start to run out of chakra eventually, and that is when we will strike. Then it is a race to see which one of us will last longer." She grinned as she continued the barrage on the two Genin. Naruto and Akka were both panting from exhaustion. Neither had expected their opponent to be so strong or so fast and were now reaching the end of their ropes. Looks like this is the end for our little duel. Naruto noted. So it seems. Aka nodded. You have been my favorite opponent. I hope that you will find peace in the afterlife. Thanks, but I'm not going there just yet. Naruto grinned as the two prepared for one last clash. Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu Kenshin Arashi Wind Dragon Rising / Storm. Naruto roared as he took off, spinning vertically. Akuryu Burati Oni Sutoraiku Bloody Demon Strike. Aka shouted as she unleashed a powerful slash on Naruto, meant to cut clean through his sword in him. The two strikes collided with a boom, creating a powerful burst of wind that caused everyone to pause. Soon the strikes ended and the two stood, backs facing each other. Then Naruto fell to his knees, coughing up blood. Naruto! Hinata shouted. Before anyone could run over to the blonde, Aka fell to the ground, a large slash appearing on the back of her armor, blood seeping out. The match goes to you, Naruto. Aka grinned. Barely. He grinned as he wiped up the blood. Well, isn't this touching? A voice laughed at the unfinished end of the bridge. Everyone turned to see Geto standing there with an army of thugs. You can't even beat a bunch of worthless shinobis, Zabuza. You really are pathetic. All right men, destroy them and bring those women back alive, they could be rather entertaining later. The thugs started cheering as they moved forward. Naruto rose slowly, his body still in pain from the last attack Aka had used. Hey Kyuubi. I need power and quick. Already on it, kid. Just be careful, you'll be releasing a lot of my power. It'll be worth it. Grinning, Naruto moved in front of the massive group, sheathing his katana. You shall all perish here. Naruto said, red chakra starting to swirl around him. He's bluffing. One shouted. At him. They shouted as they charged. Naruto only grinned as the red chakra started taking the form of a fox around him and a sinister aura as he lashed out, unleashing Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu upon the men, cutting down 5 with each swing of his sword. But Kami. Haku whispered as she ended her jutsu to watch. This is ridiculous. Zabuza muttered as he watched a blonde cutting through the men like they were nothing. No way am I letting him have all the fun. Grabbing his massive sword, Zabuza charged into the fight, swinging his massive blade around, taking down many opponents. They are just nuts. Sakura shuddered as the bodies began piling up. And why are we letting Naruto murder those people? It's not murder. Haku replied, it's self-defense. They were about to kill and or rape us. He's just making sure that they will never do such things again. This is still cruel. We are shinobi for a reason, Pinky. Haku snorted. We kill, it's what we do. Kakashi and Kurenai watched as the blonde Genin went through the ranks of bandits and was cutting them down like they were wheat for the harvest. Well, this feels wrong. Kurenai sighed. I feel like I should be stopping him. Don't. It's best if these men are dealt with. Besides, we now can see how good he is with that sword of his. Kakashi replied as he looked at the woman who was now standing up, her eyes looking over at the blonde emanating red chakra. Naruto, she stammered. Naruto. Leaping into the air, she had her sword drawn, chakra flowing into it. Akuryu Kai no Arashi Kurassu crashing blood storm. Aka flew down to the ground, smashing into the middle of a massive group of bandits that were trying to get close to Naruto, sending them flying. The 3 Kenjutsuists continued slicing through the group while Geto was slowly backing away. Where do you think you're going? Naruto asked as he sped out of the crowd. Ah. Don't kill me. He screeched. Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu Ryushoscn Dragon Rising Flash. He roared as he used his left hand to boost the blade up into Geto's throat, decapitating him while leaping into the air. Once he landed, he turned to see that most of the bandits were dead and the remaining were now fleeing for their lives. Naruto. Aka shouted as she ran over, hugging him. Hi. He asked, confused. You just fought me maybe 10 minutes ago. You don't know who I am, do you? She asked. Aka. He stated bluntly. Who? She asked. No. It's me, Kushina. Your mother. This led to a moment of stunned silence as the blonde stared at the red head like she had grown a second head. Okay, you're messing with me, right? Just trying to get inside my head and figure out what I know about Kenjutsu? Or has the blood loss gotten to you? Blood loss? She asked as she felt her back and the wind. Holy shit. Aka then proceeded to rip off her armor, causing Kurenai to cover Kiba's eyes while the rest of the men turned away while she bandaged herself up. How the hell did that happen? I did that to you during our little duel a few minutes before. Now why the hell do you keep saying you're my mother? Naruto, it's really me. And why would I believe that? I've never ever seen you before today. He shouted. Kushina lowered her head at this. She knew he had every right to be mad, but she hadn't expected this. Kushina-chan. Kakashi asked, walking over. You'll have to excuse him. He's had a bit of a rough time. A bit? He roared. Okay. A very hard time. Kakashi remedied. Alright. Let's say I believe that she is my mother, which I don't. What the hell happened to her? Where the hell has she been for my entire life? Naruto shouted. Look, this isn't exactly the best place for this conversation. Kakashi noted, so let's save this for when we get back to Tizuna's and she can tell you everything she remembers there. Fine, Naruto growled. And what to do with you for, Kurenai said, looking at Zabuza, Haku and the Oni brothers. We have no further business with you. Zabuza replied, we were hired to do a job and since he bailed on us, well, we are free to do as we please. Then why don't you stay for a bit, find Gato's money, take what is owed to you and then leave once you are ready? Hinata asked. Zabuza face planted at that, having never thought of taking the payment that they were owed. So with a nod and a quick Suiton jutsu to clean the dead bodies off of the bridge, they returned to Tizuna's house where Naruto, Kushina and Kakashi headed off into the woods to talk about what had happened to Kushina. Well? Naruto asked, leaning against a tree as he stared Kushina. It all started on the day of the Kyuubi attack. I had just given birth to you the night before and your father. My father? Naruto asked, who is my father? Minato Namikaze, of course, hasn't Oji talked to you about it? Kushina asked, looking at the blonde confused. No. He exclaimed, his kai flaring. Kushina, you know it was decided that Naruto would have to be 16 in order for that information to be disclosed. Kakashi reminded her. Yes, so? Naruto's only 13 at the moment. What? She exclaimed, he looks like he is 16. Well, as much as I love hearing I look older, I would like an explanation about why Jiji knows about my parents and hasn't said a damn word about it. Because of your father's enemies during the Third Great Shinobi War, it was decided that you would take my last name until you reached the age of 16. Then you would be informed of your lineage and offered to take his last name. Kushina sighed. Minato and I didn't like this, but it was for your own safety, in case something happened to us. Okay, he paused, taking a deep breath. I'll accept that just because it actually makes some commie damn sense. Now please finish explaining your story. Anyway, your father had just come in and he was absolutely ecstatic about you. It was then that the Kyuubi started to attack. At first Minato tried to find a way to drive off the Kyuubi, but he found that the only solution would be for him to seal it inside a newborn baby, and unfortunately you were the only one that had been born and he very well couldn't afford to wait for another to be born. So your father took you and I tried to follow after him, but in the chaos of the attack, I was separated from you and your father. I somehow managed to beat your father there, probably because he had to stop and prepare the seals on you and himself. Himself? Naruto asked. Yes, the seal he used destroyed him along with the Kyuubi's body, and so he sent a portion of his soul into you to watch over you and protect you in case something goes wrong with the seal. Kushina nodded. Anyway, I arrived first and tried to save as many people as I could, but the Kyuubi was blasting away at the ground and sent me flying after I stabbed its foot, trying to save some people that were about to be crushed. After that it all becomes blurry, nothing set, but I remember wandering around, becoming a mercenary, and while most of my skills remained ingrained from years of training, I lost all of my memories relating to before the Kyuubi attack. Naruto sat silently for several minutes until he looked her in the eye. Well, your story checks out. The Kyuubi remembers you only because you actually managed to cut him with what he calls a butter knife. He smacked you halfway across Hai no Kuni apparently. So while I am still upset, I suppose I can forgive you. He sighed as Kushina wrapped him in a back-breaking hug. Well, at least everything has turned out for the best. Kakashi grinned. Well, Kakashi-kun, it is good to see you as well. I assume that you are taking good care of my son. She grinned. Even though I am not his direct sensei, I have always looked after Naruto ever since he was asleep in his cradle. Kakashi grinned. Now that doesn't sound stalkerish. Naruto muttered as Kushina laughed. So Naruto, I want to hear about you. What have you done? Who are your friends? Do you have a girlfriend yet? Have you been eating right? What have you learned? She paused for breath and Naruto decided to interrupt her. Okay, I get it. You want to hear my life story. I suppose I should tell everyone. Naruto mused. Are you sure? Kakashi asked. Well, at least my team. Naruto amended. No offense, but your students are horrendous. Well, I don't blame you. I can go get your team and Kurenai while I stay and keep an eye on our Nukenin guests. Kakashi sighed as he shunside off to get teammate. So for several minutes the two sat there, Naruto with his headphones in bobbing his head to music while Kushina just watched him. What are you listening to? She finally asked. It's called Bang 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 Have a Nice Dream. Naruto replied as he took out a headphone, offering it to her. Listen if you like. Shrugging, the red-headed woman took the headphone and listened to the music, starting to bob her head to the song with a smile on her lips. This is pretty good. She grinned. I know. He nodded as the song came to an end as his teammates arrived. Alright, formal introductions. Everyone, this is my mother Kushina Uzumaki. Everyone nodded at the woman, Kurenai smiling at meeting one of the best Kanachi in Konoha history. Mom, this my sensei Kurenai Yuuhi and my two teammates Shino Aburam and Hinata Hyuga. Hyuga, are you Hinoka and Hiyashi's daughter? She asked. Yes. Oh my goodness. She squealed as she hugged the young girl. You look just like your mother. Oh, how is she? She passed away. After my younger sister Hanabi was born. Oh, I'm sorry. Kushina said, here, take Naruto to make up for it. She smiled as she pushed the blonde Jinchuriki and the raven-haired girl together, getting an instant blush out of them both. I thought so. You two are going to be so cute together. So Naruto, why did you ask all of us here? Kurenai asked, deciding to save her two students the embarrassment, especially before Hinata fainted from the thoughts Kushina would be implanting into her head. To tell you all a story. The story of my life, something that all of you need to hear before anything else. Naruto sighed. We're listening, Naruto. Kushina smiled. Well, it's better to start at the beginning. On my birthday the Yadaime couldn't kill the Kyuubi and sealed it inside of me. He began as he saw both Shino and Hinata look at him surprised. This is the reason the village hates me. For the first 5 years of my life things were tough but livable. Once I turned 5 I was thrown out of the orphanage where I lived on the streets for about 6 months, from early fall until early spring. Eventually the Hokage found me and got me an apartment where I could live, along with what would be needed for me to survive, plus a monthly allowance that would help pay for food and anything else I would need. So then for the next 7 years I was given the usual beatings and attempted murders, despite Jiji's and the Anbu's best efforts. I was sabotaged by my instructors at the academy until Iruka became our sensei, and even then he couldn't cancel out the bad habits I had picked up. So after failing the Genin exam Mizuki approached me with a deal, sneak into the Hokage tower and steal the Yadaime's scroll of sealing, and then learn a single technique out of it. Well, I managed to get the scroll, and I did memorize a few techniques out of it. So when I found out that Mizuki had lied to me, I tried to use the first one I memorized. It worked, but it didn't do anything to Mizuki or Iruka who had showed up searching for me. It took me from our world and took me to another where I met my Kenjutsu teacher, Himura Kenshin, and he taught me my Kenjutsu, Hiten Mitsurugi Ryu. After that I was taken to a massive dojo where I was trained in Jiu-Jitsu, Muay Thai, Chinese Kenpo, and Karate. Finally I was taken to a world where I met Shinigami and was trained by his son, 2 of his son's friends and one of their teachers. It's the reason why I'm so strong, because after that last world I returned here. Everyone was silent at this. Kurenai knew all of this information, but hearing it out of the blonde's mouth himself just made it even more mystifying. Kushina was shocked to say the least. Not only had she not been able to take care of her son, the village that Minato had told to look after his son had treated him like a monster. Not only that, but he still chose to protect them, even by returning to this world, instead of staying in one of the other worlds. Shino, well surprised, found that it wasn't that much of a problem. After all, having the Kyuubi inside of him was like having the Kikage inside of him and his entire clan. Naruto looked over at Hinata to see her looking right back at him, a fire in her eyes that seemed to put Naruto at ease. That's what I wanted you all to know. Since you are all very close to me, or will be soon enough, you have a right to know this. Naruto nodded. Well, this doesn't change anything. Kurenai replied, we are still a team. She smiled. Of course. Shino nodded. The eyes. Hinata blushed, still looking at Naruto. And we are family. Kushina grinned as she hugged Naruto. Now enough of this, let's go back to the house and enjoy some downtime before we have to go back to Konohagakure. Laughing, the Genin followed after Kushina, while Kurenai brought up the rear, shaking her head at the 4 running ahead. It took a week for the bridge to finally be completed, and the 2 teams were standing on the bridge with Kushina, Zabuza and his comrades. Well, we thank you Konohagakure Shinobi for helping us make this bridge possible. Tazuna smiled. It was nothing. And remember, you still owe Konohagakure money for the mission change. Kakashi grinned. Of course. We will have it sent over once it is ready. Tazuna nodded. Well, we had better be going. Kurenai nodded as the shinobi walked into the nearby woods. Hey, we still need a name. Inari shouted. How about the Great Naruto Bridge? Tazuna shouted, much to the people's approval. In the woods the 2 groups stopped and looked at each other for several seconds. So now what? Kakashi asked Zabuza. We will be heading on our way. We still need to raise a lot more money. He shrugged. For what? Naruto asked. To assassinate that damned Yadaime Mizuki. He growled, he's killing off people for having Kekage in case. It was the reason I tried to kill him the first time. Now I'm trying to gather forces to try again, and this time take out that damned bastard. Hey Kakashi sensei, could we help him? Naruto asked. I don't know. It would be up to the Hokage, but we normally don't interfere with foreign matters, although we do not currently have an alliance with Kurigakure. He mused. If you Hokage approves, then we would gladly take the help. Some strong shinobi can turn the tide of most battles. Haku. Yes, Zabuza-sama. Haku asked. Go with them, see what their Hokage has to say on the matter. If he agrees to help, then you are to remain there and send word back to me. If he does not, then you are to return immediately. Understood, Zabuza-sama. Haku nodded as the bandaged nin turned to look at the Jonin. I know we didn't exactly start out on the right foot and all, but you two are good shinobi, and if every jonin in your village is like you two, well Konohagakure is lucky. He grinned and Yugaki. Work on that form of yours. It doesn't look like you have mastered it yet. I haven't and neither did my sensei. Naruto replied calmly, one day if I find the need I will go back and master the rest, but until then I will stay where I'm at. It's your call. But know that I am going to request you join the attack force if Hokage agrees. Zabuza grinned as he nodded to the rest of the Genin and Kushina. Turning, Zabuza and the Oni brothers walked off into the woods, heading north to try and find work. Well, let's go. Kakashi nodded as they started moving again, heading for home. Before the exam, the 10 shinobi arrived at the gates, passing the Chunin before they had time to protest the two newcomers. Walking through the streets, they quickly arrived at the mission hall to see the Hokage there talking with Iruka. Hokage-sama, Kakashi said as the two teams and two extras walked in. Kakashi, you seem to have picked up two extras. He noted. Yes, sir. He nodded as he handed them the mission report. The Hokage nodded as he read the report before looking up. Well, this was certainly different than what I expected from your first C rank mission, however since it became an A rank and you all completed it satisfactory, I will have it marked that you have all completed an A rank mission. Now for the matter of Haku-san. Sarutobi began. Yes, Hokage-sama. You say that Zabuza wants us to help him overthrow a cage. I cannot say I like this. I know, sir. However, Yugura needs to be eliminated. He is killing hundreds of innocent people simply because they have Kekage in case. The land is in constant turmoil. If nothing is done, then Kiri will be destroyed, whether by itself or some bloodthirsty nation. I understand your plight, but what will happen once Zabuza succeeds? Will he become the god Mizukage? No. Zabuza-sama has no intention of leading Kiri. He will have a suitable person chosen who will be able to lead, protect and help Kiri. Haku explained. And does he know who? Yes. He has one idea in his mind. A shinobi who has turned against Yugura, her name is Mei Terumi. I see. Well, I shall consider this offer. Until I have made up my mind I will have to have you followed by Anbu. I understand. She nodded as she stepped back. And now for the matter of Kushina. The Hokage grinned. Yes, OG? She asked, causing the old man to sigh. The report explains what happened to you, and while I am happy to have you home, there is the matter of your time as Akka. What about it? Well, Akka is a wanted nin in several countries, so for the time being, I am going to have to remove you from active service until we can sort this matter out. Oh. Well, I can still train, right? Of course. You aren't under arrest, I just need some time to get rid of this Akka problem. He smiled. Now you are all dismissed. Nodding, the Genin walked out, each heading for their own homes, with Kushina following Naruto to his apartment. Once he led her inside, Kushina paused for a moment before she grabbed him and dragged him out. What? He exclaimed. I refuse to let you stay in that death trap. I saw at least 5 different kinds of mold in there. We are going to stay in a hotel tonight and then tomorrow we will go and get the keys to your father's house. She growled as she walked. But what about my stuff? He exclaimed. We will go back and get it tomorrow. Kushina retorted as they walked into a hotel. I need accommodations for 2. She replied. Sorry, we don't serve his kind. The man behind the counter growled. Let's just go. Naruto sighed. Oh no. Kushina replied as she turned to the man behind the counter. Let's try this again, shall we? Drawing her katana. You will give us a room for 2 people, or I will give you an inside view of your digestive tract. This caused the man to sweat as he handed her a key. Much better. Kushina replied, smiling again. Alright, let's go. She is something else. Naruto grinned as he followed Kushina into their room for the night. The next day, the blonde followed his mom into the Hokage tower and laughed as she just barged into the Hokage's office despite the secretary's protests. Hey OG. She shouted as the old man looked up from his paperwork. Oh, Kushina-chan. What can I do for you? The key to Minato's house. She demanded. You don't want Naruto living in that death trap called an apartment. It's not a death trap. Naruto shouted. My boy, I wouldn't even condemn a mass murderer to stay in there. If it wasn't for your tenant, I'm sure you would be dead. He sighed. Here, Kushina. Handing over a key. Thanks, OG. And why is Naruto staying there? Because it was the only place that would take him. He shrugged as he went back to his paperwork. Everything is as you and Minato left it, since I forbid the elders from even thinking about using it or the Uzumaki and Namika's bank accounts. Thanks, OG. Kushina smiled as she led Naruto out of the room. Walking into the richest part of Konoha, she led them to a massive building that looked like it hadn't been used in years. This is it. She exclaimed as she put the key in the lock, opening the door and leading Naruto inside. This place has seen better days. He noted. Nothing a little hard work and a ton of Kage Bushin can't fix. She grinned as she led him inside. In the front door was a massive front hall, with a massive staircase to the left and a closet for shoes and coats to the right, and directly in front of them was a hallway. Alright. time for you to get the grand tour," Kushina exclaimed as she led Naruto down the hallway first. Reaching the end, they stood in a massive kitchen. The kitchen, obviously. She grinned as they turned left and walked into a large room with a couch, 2 armchairs, a small table in front of the couch, and another in between the armchairs. There were also several bookshelves about the room, each filled with different books. "This is the lounge, where Minato and I relaxed with any guests we had over after we were done eating," she explained as she led him to a glass door that led out to the massive backyard, the backyard, where you can train or relax. Further back is a hot spring that Minato dug up. It's mixed bathing, so make sure you know what you're getting into. She grinned as Naruto turned red. Leading him back into the kitchen and taking the other way, they entered a large room with a long table and chairs around it, easily enough for 20 people to sit comfortably. The dining room, for fancy occasions. She grinned as she led him to the next room. "This is the living room where we sit with the guests before dinner, that way we don't have to work our way through the crowded kitchen." The living room had several armchairs and couches scattered about, with several small tables as well. Turning around, she led him back to the stairs where they walked up first and into another long hallway. "The study is the first door on the right, it has all of your father's and my techniques and important documents in there. The first door on the left is the library, filled with all of the books that we have collected over our time, most being books on training. Then after that are the bedrooms, with mine being the last one on the left, and you can take anyone for now while I redecorate your actual room." "Redecorate?" "Yes. Unless you think you can sleep in a crib?" she asked with a grin. Naruto nodded after a few moments, realizing what she meant. That room was filled with everything that was going to be his if Kushina hadn't been sent flying and his dad hadn't died. "Now we have one more place to go." She grinned as she walked back downstairs. Once at the foot of the stairs, she placed her hand on the banister, pumping chakra into it, causing the stair so drop down, revealing the way into the basement. Following Kushina, they reached a massive room, divided into segments. One was training mats, with practice dummies and targets. Another was a desk with a bright light over it and several ink jars and brushes. The last had several racks of weapons, from kunai knives and shurikens to morning stars and giant battle axes. "This is the training room. Here you can practice anything you like, and this entire room is covered with seals so that it can stop the foundation from being damaged if you unleash a particularly viscous attack down here, and it also has reparative powers so it can recover from said viscous attack without you tunneling your way to the other side of the world." Kushina grinned, "And that's that. You have seen everywhere you can go in this house. Wow. You and dad really went all out on this." He whistled. "And take all the credit. This is the Namikaze compound, so it was built like this a long time ago, your father simply updated whatever needed to be." She grinned. "Well, it is still great. So I'll go get my stuff out of my apartment and be back soon." Naruto grinned. "Great. And while you're doing that, I will get started on repairing this place." Kushina laughed as the two walked back upstairs. Kushina created 10 cage bushin, having each designated jobs. 2 were sent up to clean out Naruto's room and make it ready for him. 2 were sent to start dusting the study and library. 2 into the kitchen to start cleaning the dishes and appliances. 3 were sent outside to clean up the yard and make it look presentable. 2 were sent into the dining room and living room to wash the tables and dust the furniture. Kushina herself went into the lounge to start cleaning in there while checking the books to make sure that Jiraiya hadn't been through again and added his own works onto the shelves. Naruto was going through his apartment, looking at what he thought would be important. "Let's see. I've got my clothes, my hidden money stash, my shinobi tools. Don't need the food or anything else. Man, I really do not have much." He sighed as he realized that he didn't even need to make any clones to help him carry his stuff. Walking back, he realized that he was only a short distance from the Hyuga compound. Great Kami above. "It's like they are trying to get us together." He mentally laughed. "Just accept it, kid, your mate has been chosen." Kyuubi grinned. Naruto just sighed as he walked back inside the compound to see that the Kushina clones had already taken care of the front of the compound. The grass was cut, the weeds pulled from the gardens, and the front had been painted its pristine white again. Walking inside, he saw that the clones had already cleaned the front hall, and from what he guessed, the upstairs was almost done. Walking up, he saw that the door to his room was open, and being curious, he walked in to see that all of the baby items weren't there and instead was a bed, a desk with a light over it, and a large dresser and closet. Smiling, Naruto went about putting what little he had away and once finished walked down to the lounge to see Kushina pulling a few books off of the shelf and placing them in a large pile. "What's all that, Mom?" he asked. "Your father's teacher's books," she replied. Shrugging, Naruto grabbed one and started flipping through it, flying back with an instant nosebleed. "Naruto!" she exclaimed. "What in the world?" He trailed off. "That was the book Kakashi-sensei is always reading." "Oh, is he now?" Kushina asked with an evil glint in her eyes. "Why would anyone write that, let alone read it? Some people just do." She sighed. Your father sensei, Jiraiya, calls himself a mega pervert and really is, since he has been beaten by angry women more times than he can count. So what are you going to do with all of those? Naruto asked. Lock them away, since Jiraiya gave them to us it is a waste to destroy it. Besides, one day we can sell them for a small fortune. Kushina grinned as she moved them into a large box that was quickly chained shut. So are you all settled into your room? Yeah. Naruto nodded. Good. Well, tonight we can go out for dinner and then on the way back we can start grocery shopping. Kushina nodded as they finished cleaning. That night once finished Naruto led the way to Ichiraku Ramen where the blonde sat with a wide grin on his face. Naruto. Tucci shouted at seeing his favorite customer. Hey, Tucci Jiji-sama. Naruto grinned. Who's this? He asked looking at Kushina. I'm Kushina Uzumaki, Naruto's mother. She smiled. His mother? Tucci exclaimed. That's great. I'm happy for you Naruto, first 5 bowls are on me in celebration. We need 5 of the usual for our best customer and his mother. What? Shouted as she ran out to see the red-haired woman sitting next to their favorite blonde. Hey Nai-chan. Naruto smiled. Hello. Kushina nodded. That's Naruto's mom. Yep, now let's get to work. Tucci exclaimed as they started making the ramen. What is the usual? Kushina asked. Interchanging bowls of ramen. Starts with beef, then pork, chicken, shrimp and the miso, and it continues on until I'm done eating. And how much do you eat? She asked. On average or my record? He grinned. Both. My average is about 20 bowls, though my record stands at 40. Naruto laughed. Oh really? And have you been eating other things? Kushina asked. Whenever I could. But here is the only place that hasn't overcharged me and their ramen is great. I see. Kushina nodded as the ramen arrived. So if you don't mind my asking where have you been? Tucci asked. I was separated from Naruto during the Kyuubi attack. She explained I lost my memories for a time, but during Naruto's last mission we met and I regained what I had lost. And his father? Asked. He passed away. He died in the attack. Oh. Gasped. Hey. Enough depressing talk. Naruto shouted as he finished his first bowl. This is supposed to be a happy occasion. He's right. Tucci agreed. Now let's enjoy this. So for the evening the 4 of them simply laughed and talked, enjoying the happy time. The next day Naruto was meeting with Kurenai who said she had someone to introduce him to. Walking through the village they arrive at a large square building that seemed to give off a sinister aura. Where are we Kurenai-sensei, and why am I the only one here? This is the I&T department and you're here to meet another sensei for you. You see, after what you did to the Oni brothers to get information I thought I should let you intern here to learn some new tricks. Kurenai replied, and you will be working under one of my closest friends, so don't worry. Okay he trailed off as they walked in and were escorted to an office on the 2nd floor. Well just go on in, and remember you have training tomorrow with the rest of your teammates. Kurenai smiled as she left. Shrugging Naruto knocked on the door and waited a few moments. When no one responded he simply walked in to have a kunai thrown at him. Leaping to the side he rolled, taking out his guns and aiming at the person who had thrown the kunai. She was a young woman, a little younger than Kurenai with purple hair, a fishnet top under a dark purple tube top, and a dark purple short skirt with a tan trench coat over it all. Wow Gaki, you have some balls. She grinned as she shunside next to him, but that's not enough. Try me. He grinned as he elbowed her, only for her to grab his arm and lock him in place. I like you already Gaki. So you're the new intern that Kurenai-chan said would be coming over? Yeah. He grunted. Well what do you know about interrogation and torture? She asked. They are both mind games basically. If you can make your target think you have all the cards and are offering the best deal or the easiest way out of their current problem, then they will likely break and tell you what you want to know. But torture lets you prove you will follow through on said threat. An interesting theory. Anko nodded. Alright, I like you. Now do you have any experience in torture or interrogation? Only one. On my last mission we captured the Oni brothers and once they were awake I made them think I injected them with black mamba venom and that they were going to die if they didn't tell me what I wanted to know. In reality I injected them with ink. Anko started laughing at this, letting go of his arm as she held her sides. Oh my. That was you. She laughed. I thought it was some jonin with a sick sense of humor. You are so staying with me. What? Interns are allowed to go with others to see what method works best for them, but there is no way I am letting anyone else work with you. Anko grinned as she leaned closer. If you keep doing work like that I might have to start rewarding you. Giving a flirty wink she motioned for him to follow. Nodding he walked behind her as he thought about how this woman was a friend of Kurenai-sensei's. Alright Gaki. Since you already know the basics I am going to have you sitting in on a few of my sessions before we turn you loose on a few of your own. She explained the entire purpose of this department is to get as much information out of these scumbags as possible. Once you break them they are very useful to us alive rather than dead. So for the first few you will watch me and a few other people work on these bastards, and from there we will see how you do with some help, and then as your last one you get full reign. Sounds like fun. He grinned. Man Gaki, you are going to be my favorite intern. Who knows, maybe we might be more than that. She grinned. Taking the blonde Jinchuruki down to the first floor, she led him to an observation room where they walked in to watch as the head of the department was interrogating a foreign shinobi. Well, it says here you are from Kusa, but we all knew that. He began as he looked at the clipboard. The nin just sat silently as Ibiki walked around. So how about we make this a quick one and you tell me what I want to know. Not a chance in hell, Konoha bastard. Very well. Ibiki nodded as he walked over, taking out several long nails. Walking over he pounded 2 into the nin's hands, points facing up, earning a shudder of pain from him. Next he put 2 more through his feet in a similar manner. Ready to talk? Ibiki asked, only to be greeted with silence. Very well. He nodded as he walked over and got 4 candles, setting them on the nails. Taking out a match he lit each candle and stood back as the burning wax began to drip onto his hands and feet, burning them. All you have to do is say when you're ready, so take you time. Ibiki grinned as he turned to leave. Oh, one last thing. Those candles, once the wax starts to drip over, begins to curl up your arms and legs to make room for more, so eventually it will encase your entire body, and the heat won't cease until you are either dead or willing to talk, and death won't come quickly. Walking out of the room he went to the observation room to see Anko munching on dango, while Naruto watched intently. So this is the new intern. Ibiki noted, kind of young. Trust me, he's good. Anko grinned. Do you know the Oni brothers, the ones who had all that ink in their blood? Yeah. That was him. Made them think it was black mamba venom. She laughed. Ibiki smirked at this. It took a convincing liar to make 2 Chunin rank nin believe that they had been poisoned by something lethal. Any chance I can take him for a few sessions? He asked. No way. Anko grinned. That blonde hot eye is mine. Excuse me? Naruto said, looking at her. You heard me? She winked as Naruto sighed. So what do you think of my method? Ibiki asked. Kind of boring, to be honest. Naruto shrugged, but it is effective, so that is all that matters. Ha. Anko laughed. He's bored of your method. At least mine is amusing. Yeah, but as he said, it's results that matter. Ibiki grinned. Besides, he will be willing to talk once the wax has hit his genitals. That's just scary. Naruto shivered. It gets the job done. Ibiki replied as they continued to talk until the nin started shouting that he would talk. Well, it's time to get to work. Nodding, Ibiki walked back to the main room and began getting answers about the nin's purpose for being there. Once he was finished, the man was taken to a holding cell, while Anko took Naruto to a few other rooms to watch how each interrogator worked. Once they finished, Anko walked with the blonde out. Well, since it is so late and we don't have too many people left to demonstrate on, why don't we call it a day and get something to eat? She offered. I suppose we could. Naruto nodded as she grabbed his hand and dragged him to her favorite bar for dango and sake. Bring cup. I'm underage. He noted, and my mom would kill me if I come home drunk. You got that, fox, and you're right. Yeah. Why? Well, doesn't he purify alcohol before it can intoxicate you? Naruto face planted at this, having never thought of that. Damn it. I could have been drinking with Kenshin sensei. He exclaimed as he took a seat, but I am still underage. You're a shinobi. You are allowed to get a drink whenever you want as long as you have your shinobi license with you. Anko laughed as she motioned for the bartender to bring him some sake and dango as well. Shrugging, the boy joined his teacher in the consumption of her favorite food and drink. Late that night, Kushina walked into the bar to find Naruto sitting there with Anko, both of them laughing like mad. Naruto. Kushina growled. Hi, mom. Naruto grinned. Do you have any idea what time it is? It is midnight, young man. She roared as she grabbed him by his ear and dragged him out. You were supposed to be home hours ago. Ma'am. Anko slurred. It's my fault. I took him here. She never got to finish as she collapsed on the bar. Tommy. Kushina sighed as she looked at Naruto, who seemed fine. How much have you had? Twice as much as Anko-sensei did. The tenant was able to handle all of that, though now he seems thoroughly wasted. Naruto noted. HRM. Well, let's get your sensei home and then you to bed. You have to be up early tomorrow for team training. Kushina noted as she picked up the drunken Jonin. After getting directions to her apartment, they dropped her off and went back home for the night. For the next month, Naruto was very busy. Most days he was either training with his team, working on teamwork and other important things, while on other days he was at the I&T department, learning about torture and interrogation. He also made time to visit with Haku, since she apparently was always stopping by the house looking for him. The two would either stay in the house, talking about their lives, or Naruto would take her out around Konoha, showing her different things that related to the village's history or that were just kind of cool. At the I&T department he was becoming a pro, as Anko said. He knew how to make people think whatever he wanted them to, and so Anko said that soon, he would be allowed to go solo and interrogate someone without another certified member being there. It was a month later that he was allowed to have his first victim to torture. The man was from Iowa and he had been caught sneaking into Konoha in the clan district. "Good morning." Naruto grinned as he walked into the room, carrying the clipboard and a small wrapped-up bundle. "Hope you are enjoying our hospitality, since you're going to be here a while. Or not, depending if you're feeling talkative." The nin just stared daggers at the boy. Shrugging, Naruto looked over the clipboard before refocusing on the man. "Well, let's try being nice first. I mean, you never know, not all Iowa shinobi are fools." Naruto grinned as the man's eyes got angry. "So tell me, what is your name?" The man didn't answer, instead spitting on Naruto as Anko in the other room winced at this. "Not a smart move," she noted. "Alright then. We do things the hard way." Naruto nodded as he opened up the bundle. Inside were several large needles, some thicker than others, but each one of them at least 6 inches long, some close to a foot. Grabbing 2 of the largest ones, he walked over to the man, looking at the man before he placed the first needle. It was a thick one that he rammed into the small space where the arm connects with the shoulder, doing this to both sides. "Now I love my symmetry, so let's get things going. I am going to ask you one more time before I start, what is your name?" The man squirmed in discomfort at the needles but didn't say a word. "Fine." Naruto nodded as he channeled fire chakra into his hands, touching the needles that became red hot in a matter of seconds, earning agonizing scream from the man. "Ready?" "No." "Alright then." Naruto nodded as he took out another 2, stabbing them into his elbows, and again offering. Once declined, he used this again, connecting them to a circuit so the heat wouldn't leave the needles, earning a terrible scream from the man. "So what's your name?" "Nagi, Nagi Nagus." "Okay. So what were you doing here?" "I was exploring," Nagi began but was soon writhing in pain. "Liar." Naruto grinned. "Now as punishment you've earned 4 more needles and for me to leave you with endless pain for 5 minutes. Walking back to the cloth, he took out 4 more and placed 2 in the joints of his ankles and 2 behind his kneecaps. Walking out of the room, he heard Nagi scream in pain as the heat was worse now than before. Walking into the observation room, he looked over at Anko. "So how am I doing?" "Not too bad." Anko grinned. "It's not all that bloody, but it is very interesting to watch him writhing in pain from those needles." "How many more can you put in?" "Well, for the basic joints I can add another 4, his wrists and then where his legs connect with his waist. After that I can start using his fingers, his spine, and any other place where the bones aren't a solid piece." Naruto laughed. "Well, don't leave him like that for too long. We do want answers." She grinned as the blonde nodded and walked back. Once inside, he looked at the man. "Ready to try again, Nagi?" "Why were you here?" I was sent." "By who and for what purpose?" "By the Sandame Tsuchikage." Nagi panted to see if a rumor was true. "What rumor?" "We heard a rumor that the son of the Red Death had been found and that he was the son of the Yadame Hokage. The Sandame wanted to see if it was true." "I see. And what were you to do once this was found out?" "Either eliminate the boy or report back so a stronger shinobi could be sent." "Alright then." Naruto nodded as he gave the signal for the man to be taken away. After taking out the needles, the man was taken to a holding cell. "Not too bad, Gaki." Anko grinned. "Your time was 10 minutes 11 seconds from the time you entered till the time he was taken away. For an intern that is unheard of, for a certified member that is impressive." "Thanks, Anko-sensei." "Does this mean I'm done?" "Not quite." Anko grinned as she leaned down. "You still need to get paid." "Paid?" Naruto asked, taking a step back. "Oh yes, you must be paid." She grinned, stepping closer and leaning into his face, which was quickly turning red. Suddenly she pulled up a slip of paper between them. "This is yours, take this to the Hokage Tower and you will get paid for having completed an A rank mission." Handing him the paper, she grinned. "And you thought I was going to something indecent?" "I did." He nodded. "Not in here, the one-way window." She laughed. "Maybe another time, Naruto-kun." Naruto simply turned red as he walked out after her, heading for the Hokage Tower. The next day, teammate had a team meeting and Naruto was curious about what it was for. "Good morning, everyone." Kurenai smiled as she walked over. "I've got some good news for you." "What is it, Kurenai-sensei?" Hinata asked. "I've nominated all of you to take the Chunin exams. Here are your forms, just fill them out and go to classroom 301 on Sunday. Be there by 10. She smiled as she left, leaving them looking at the forms. "Well, what do you guys think?" Naruto asked after reading the form. "It is an honor to take part in this." Shino noted. "Not many first-year genin take this test." "Yeah." Naruto nodded. "What do you think, Hinata?" "I don't know, it is an honor, but it's also dangerous." Hinata pointed out. "Well, we don't have to go if any of you don't want to." Naruto replied. "It should be unanimous." "I agree." Shino nodded. "We will need to work together more than anything else, so if one of us doesn't think that they are ready, then none of us should go." "Well, I think we are, we should just be careful." Hinata nodded. "And I say that we are ready." Shino nodded. "Hell yeah, we are ready." Naruto grinned as they all decided to talk to their parents about the exams. On their way home Naruto and Hinata came across Konohamaru being held in the air by someone in a full bodysuit and face paint on. Damn shrimp ran into me. He cursed. Just put him down Kankuro. The girl behind him sighed. No way Tamari. This little brat is going to pay. Kankuro growled as he reared back a punch. Bang bang. Naruto remarked as he fired 2 shots. The first hit the oncoming fist, stopping it, the second hit the wrist that was connected to the hand holding up Konohamaru. The young student dropped to the ground where he quickly ran behind Naruto. You? Kankuro shouted as he reached over his shoulder. Kankuro? If you use crow here Gara will kill you. Tamari exclaimed. That fucker has insulted me Tamari. I don't care. Kankuro growled. Might want to retract that statement since Gara is already here. Naruto noted looking up in the tree where a red-haired boy with a massive gourd on his back stood. Gara? Kankuro exclaimed. You're a disgrace Kankuro. Now stop before I kill you. Gara rasped as he shun side down in front of Naruto. Fast. Naruto noted. No kidding. I can smell Shukaku, the Ichibi, on him. He's probably its container. Kyuubi noted. Who are you? Gara asked. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto replied and I am like you brother. What is he talking about? Kankuro muttered. Really now? Gara smirked as he turned away. I look forward to seeing what you are capable of then, Naruto. This got wide-eyed looks from both Kankuro and Tamari. He's never acknowledged anyone else as his equal before. Not even father. Kankuro said. I know. Tamari nodded. Who are you exactly Naruto Uzumaki? What you see is what you get. Naruto grinned as he watched them leave. Nodding to himself Naruto walked Hinata the rest of the way home while thinking about the Sand siblings. Gara himself was grinning madly, knowing that he had finally found a worthy opponent for his mother to feast on. Soon mother. Soon you will feast on a great meal. Gara promised as Shukaku was in an uproar for not having fought that blonde who seemed to give off pure power. What if Naruto uses Hiten Mitsurugi in the Chunin exams? Thanks for watching my video till the end. If you enjoy this content, then do consider subscribing to my channel and leave a like if you guys need the next part, comment down, and thanks for watching the video and see you guys in the next video.